Meeting of the Municipal Council to order at 7 o'clock. Please join me for... 6:30, wow. Hey, sometimes old habits die. 6:30, please join me for a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Councilor Fowler, thank you for the timekeeping, just making sure you were paying attention, and you were, so that's appreciated.
My pleasure.
Madam Clerk, if you'd please read the notice of special meeting.
Certainly. May 7th, 2025. Members of the Municipal Council, from James J. Delisio, Council President. Councilors, by authority of Article 2, Section 2-7C of the Attleboro Home Rule Charter, I hereby call a special meeting of the Municipal Council as follows. Date, May 13th, 2025, the time to be 6:30 p.m. Places, Council Chambers, City Hall, 77 Park Street. Purpose is to call a special meeting Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, for the presentation of the fiscal year 2026 budget by the administration and any other business that may be in front of the council. Sincerely, James J. Delisio, President.
Thank you. I would like to entertain a motion to suspend the rules. Second. Thank you. Motion is in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. We are operating under suspended rules, so we can have the mayor and Mason Lord come present the fiscal 26 budget, and then we have a special treat after that. So, Mason and Mayor, please, the floor is yours.
Good evening. I think it's just me. Mason's here just to observe, keep me in line.
There we
So,
go.
first of all, yes, good evening, Kathleen DeSimone, Mayor. So first of all, I want to thank you, President Delisio, and council members for convening a special meeting for the purpose of the budget. This year's been a little bit different because my friend Mason was on extended military leave, and I want to, number one, I cannot tell you how ecstatically happy I am that he's back, but I also want to tell him how grateful I am, not only for his service to the city, but of course his service to the country. I don't know what you did out there for 5 months, but I hope it was fun, because we were under without you here, my friend, so I'm glad you're back. And to that note, Mason's only been back about a month, and he put this together. We did have some help, as you know, from Barry LaCasse, who helped us out, but I tip my hat to Mason for accomplishing a budget in a little more than a month's time. So well done. So my goal tonight, folks, is just to read the budget memo in and then turn it over to you and Mason for your committee hearings that ensue. So on that note, good evening and greetings, President Delisio and municipal councilors. I respectfully submit to you the proposed FY26 General Fund operating budget. This budget has been prepared with the thoughtful cooperation and collaboration of all departments responsible for providing services to our city. And we remain focused on the shared common purpose of providing a city budget that is balanced, realistically maintains services and programs for all Attleboro residents, and fairly compensates city employees for their efforts. Although the general operating budget is balanced as required by law and does not result in layoffs for any department, I feel compelled to highlight the fact that this budget is not moving us forward in a manner that reflects our growing and changing community. Like you, I frequently hear from community members seeking to have local government deliver on their particular priorities. But those priorities vary. For many, it is newly paved roads, sidewalks, or more resources for our schools. Other residents prioritize a new senior center, better facilities for our police and fire departments, bike lanes, more open space, improvements to our city pools, parks, and fields, more pickleball courts, or lower utility rates. As rising costs outpace flattening revenues, this budget will likely not satisfy the priorities and requests of so many of our constituents. To plan responsibly through shifting economic patterns and resulting impacts, this budget prioritizes strategic investments intended to better ensure continued stability. From supporting our city workforce to safeguarding needed resources in public education and honoring long-term commitments to meet pension requirements and debt obligations to promote long-term sustainability in city finances reflected in our AA bond rating. Note, if you will, that the FY26 budget is based on the following primary drivers: contractual salary and wage obligations, increases in related personnel costs, such as a 15% health insurance increase for active plans, and a budgeted mid-year increase of 7.5% for MedX retiree plans, following a 17% increase in January of 25. Increases in contracted service expenditures in most departments. 4, a need to attract and retain high-quality staff within all departments. 5, the impact of increased interest rates on city debt. increased supply costs, and potential tariffs. Budget highlights. The proposed FY26 general fund operating budget represents an approximately 5.8% increase over FY25. The investments in this budget are a clear expression of our values here in Attleboro. Educating our young people is prioritized with over $120.5 million invested in the education of our next generation, the students in the Attleboro Public Schools, and a more than 7% increase in funding from last year. On the municipal side, including all municipal operations, pensions, and retiree health insurance, and debt service, the budget has increased approximately 3.6%. Healthcare costs, particularly related to pharmaceuticals, are rising at a pace inconsistent with revenue growth and are becoming increasingly challenging. The city will continue to closely examine these costs moving forward in order to better ensure that we are able to meet these challenges in a meaningful way. Additional budget highlights include the presentation of a balanced budget without any appropriation of free cash or an appropriation from stabilization for the first time in at least the last 8 proposed budgets. Continued inclusion of $500,000 in the reserve fund for capital, but for the first time using recurring revenues and not balancing the expense with any free cash. Contributing $107,690 to OPEB. Continued funding of 3 new police cruisers as part of the police operating budget, which allows us to keep upgrading our cruiser fleet without paying interest and cost of issuance if we were to bond for cruisers. Accelerating the training and professional development for city staff. Advancing affordable housing through the anticipated sale of Finberg School at 1129 South Main Street, Strict at 1125 South Main Street, and the former Richardson School property at 95 Pine Street. Continuing the higher level investments in athletic fields and expanding our attention to recreational programs. The completion of a thorough and competitive process for a new solid waste removal contract. Attleboro Public Schools funding at FY26. As I've said before, Attleboro is fortunate to have an exceptional public educational system with many talented and dedicated professional educators at all levels. As a community member, parent, and resident with family members who teach and work in K-12 education, I fully value the mission of Attleboro Public Schools to engage, challenge, and inspire our students, and I believe the entire city benefits from the success of our schools. Funding our schools is a significant financial investment, making up 58.6% of the total city budget. Most of the school's costs involve contractual and employee-related expenses, which is also, of course, true for the entire city budget. In FY26, required net school spending increased 7.9%, or $8.07 million from FY25. Although Attleboro's Chapter 78 increased 10.4% from last year, our required district contribution increased 4.9%. Requiring an additional $2.25 million above last year's contribution. School transportation costs have increased by more than $321,077, or 5.8% from FY25. The school department has been presented with a net school spending budget of $112,274,457, which is $1,227,859 above net school spending. This amount includes the administration's continued commitment to provide 50% of new growth, which will be continued when new growth is finalized in the fall. Importantly, this proposed school budget will allow the school department to meet contractual expenses and will not result in any job or educational program losses. Looking ahead, while I am proud to present the FY26 budget to you, it must be stressed again that achieving a balanced budget does not diminish the structural deficit that is upon us. As is too often the case, this budget finds many departments and programs that are not fully funded, staffed, or equipped, and facilities and infrastructure improvements in need of attention. If we as a community seek to maintain the quality of life our residents deserve and provide our children with a competitive education, we must be willing to work together and to make tough decisions. We must also understand that our challenges don't just live here in City Hall or at the school department. They are shared throughout the city and cannot be solved without a focused commitment from the entire community. After the certification of free cash, contributions will be made to both the General Purpose Stabilization Fund, the Reserve for Compensated Absences, and the Reserve Fund for Special Education Stabilization. It is important that we maintain healthy reserves as a measure of economic stability. Moreover, it is essential that the city maintain adequate levels of reserve funds to mitigate financial risks that can occur from unforeseen revenue fluctuations, unanticipated expenditures, and economic downturns. to maximize economic development opportunities, generate revenue, and reduce costs when appropriate. In FY26, we will be focusing on continued advocacy to the congressional delegation in the U.S. Army for the approval of our public benefit request for the acquisition of the Ponson Reserve Center property on John Williams Street as a potential location for a new joint public safety complex down the road a bit in the future. Reevaluating our health insurance plan offerings, creating a permitting approval process to encourage and support more large special events in the city, festivals, outdoor concerts, beer and food truck events, etc. Establishing an ad hoc committee to evaluate various scenarios for improving Capron Park Zoo's ongoing revenue challenges and costly capital improvement needs. Succession and staff resilience planning, including the potential creation of the following new positions: Assistant Director of Budget and Finance, Assistant City Planner, and Special Assistant to the Mayor. Exploring the implementation of an inventory control system and vehicle tracking software, neither of which the city currently has. Engaging in a competitive bidding process for the city's liability insurance needs. Continued pursuit of federal, state, and other grant opportunities. Selling the former vacant Finberg and Richardson schools for housing development. Implementing an employee time and attendance programs for city employees so we don't have to sign any more time cards. Supporting the ongoing development and improvement of our downtown, planting more trees on city-owned properties, working on ways to increase pedestrian and vehicle safety and improve the aesthetics along Route 1A, and to create a volunteer Friends of Highland group to help us continue improvements and attract more guests to Highland Park. In closing, although the road ahead will likely be bumpy, I remain relentlessly optimistic about Attleboro's future, and I am grateful for our residents and business people who provide the funding to support the community. For you, the municipal council and the school committee members, and for our city and school staff who do the hard work every day of serving people who live, work, and go to school here. Our community is overflowing with people who willingly give of their time and talents to help each other and give back, and I am honored to serve as mayor. I should also acknowledge, before I go, that while our friend Mason was away, your auditor once again stepped up and did yeoman's work in his absence. So I, again, remain forever grateful to Deb Gould and her staff for helping out while Mason wasn't here. So I wanted to put that on the record. Now, if I may, I'll read very quickly the budget message for the water and wastewater. I don't know what, it's in the, oh, thank you. So once again, greetings to you all. I respectfully submit the proposed FY26 enterprise budgets for the water and wastewater enterprise funds. This memo serves as my budget message for both the water and wastewater departments. Wastewater treatment is vital as a means of caring for our environment and for our own health. Wastewater contains many harmful substances and cannot be released back into the environment until it is treated. It includes substances such as human waste, food scraps, oils, soaps, and chemicals in homes. This includes water from sinks, showers, bathtubs, toilets, washing machines, and dishwashers. Businesses and industries also contribute their share of used water that must be cleaned. PFAS is also found in wastewater, and remediation is very likely going to be increasingly expensive moving forward. Attleboro's wastewater department continues to perform essential service to the city. Operational cost increases necessitate a rate increase for FY25 or for 26. This budget seeks a rate of $12.99 per 100 cubic feet for residential and $15.07 per 100 cubic feet for industrial pretreatment surcharge users for consumption after July, forgive the typo, July 1, 25. The budget, this budget includes just over $1 million in a reserve for the new treatment plant anticipated for FY29 to FY30. The anticipated cost of the plant is north of $150 million, and it is imperative that we continue to grow our rate and reserve capacity for this upcoming expense. Water. Safe drinking water is a fundamental human right. We are fortunate to live in Massachusetts, where the public water supplies are among the best in the country and are subject to the most stringent government standards in the world. It is the mission of the Attleboro Water Department to provide clean water to Attleboro's residents and businesses and commercial properties. To accomplish this, the department maintains and replaces when necessary water mains, locates and repairs leaks, and works assiduously and, most importantly, so that no harmful chemicals such as lead can infiltrate our water system. A changing regulatory environment specifically related to PFAS and PFOA and the need for substantial system upgrades to comply with EPA and Mass DEP standards necessitate both a rate increase and the use of retained earnings to balance the budget. This budget seeks a rate of $8.48 per 100 cubic feet of water consumption after July 125. And similar to wastewater, includes over $1 million in a reserve for the new treatment plant to build rate and reserve capacity for the new treatment plant costs expected to hit the budget in FY '27. Although this rate is greater than past increases, it is in accord with the rate study that we did last year and is absolutely necessary to maintain sufficient retained earnings for upcoming improvements and upgrades. The importance of a retained earnings fund is that such a fund allows the water department to do critical capital projects without the need to bond for these projects, and also to respond to unforeseen needs. Challenges in FY '26 and beyond, both the water and wastewater department will require substantial investments in infrastructure. As you know, our current wastewater facility went online in 1980, was retrofitted in 2004. The retrofit replaced mechanical and electrical systems, but no new treatment processes were added. It has now been more than 20 years since the retrofit, and the city needs to start planning for the next upgrade to the facility. Unlike the 2004 retrofit, new processes will need to be added to meet the stricter NIPD's permit requirement, and the aging buildings and tanks will also need to be addressed. The comprehensive water management plan is the first step in evaluating what will be needed to bring the treatment plant forward. The rough estimate for these upgrades is in excess of $150 million. As you know, in addition to multiple millions of dollars needed for water main replacements outlined in the FY '26-30 capital improvements plan, the permanent upgrades at the Wading River treatment plant are needed to remove PFAS and TTHMs and are estimated to cost close to $40 million. We have secured low-interest funding, as you know, for this project through the state revolving fund, and anticipate that these upgrades will be completed in the next 3 years. As we wait for the completion of the new permanent plant, we are close to completing the temporary plant at Wading River. With increasing infrastructure costs and large capital improvement projects on the horizon, it is imperative that we stay the course with last year's rate study, which highlighted the importance of establishing a rate that ensures system sustainability both in the present and in the future, while better preparing us for costly and necessary infrastructure projects. Moreover, with the current and much clearer picture of the operating costs and necessary capital improvements needed for our water and wastewater departments, we must remain committed to building up the reserves to minimize reliance on using retained earnings to subsidize the rates while carefully and consistently adjusting fees in accordance with department needs and market conditions. Respectfully submitted, Kathleen D. Snow.
Mayor, thank you very much.
Apologize for the couple of date typos on there, friends.
Things happen. If this is the biggest issue with the budget, we're in good shape. So, friends, what I'll say is there's going to be plenty of time for questions. This is a lot for us to absorb. Momentarily, we'll be talking about the mayor's communication, which addresses a lot of the budgetary items, where we'll have several public hearings, which we'll be looking for June 3rd. I would come prepared with questions at that point, but Mayor, thank you for a very comprehensive message. Mason, thank you for your service, and of course to Barry Lacasse, who Barry and I share a deep love of the Godfather trilogy. So Barry, just when you thought you were out, they put you back in. So certainly appreciate the team effort, especially with Deb's help, of course, with everything she had going on as well.
Agreed. Thank you, President Dosu.
Chick, Corbus, anything you'd like to add?
During the committee meeting, we'll talk about a little bit of what the plan is and the schedule is for
Sure.
meetings and stuff like that, but nothing for now.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good night.
Thank you.
So where we are operating under suspended rules, there will be no public hearings, no clerk's communication, no committee of the whole, no committee reports, but we will go to Madam Clerk for a reading of the mayor's communication. So, Madam Clerk.
May 13th, 2025, for fiscal year 26 budget. Dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit to you, your honorable body, the City of Attleboro's general government annual budget for fiscal year 2026.
So everything that is in this communication, spoiler alert, will be going to the Finance Committee. So we won't be sending this after every piece of business is read, and then Council Corbus at the end, I'll ask for one broad swipe with the public hearings and for which pieces of business needs them. Okay,
Sounds good.
thank you.
I respectfully request your honorable body, under the provisions of Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, as amended, to approve the expenditure limits for the following revolving funds outlined under Chapter 20 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro for fiscal year 2026. Police replacement of vehicles, $280,000. Off-street parking, $250,000. Protective inspection services, $275,000. Residential special waste disposal, $1,400,000. Council on Aging, $20,000. $20,000, not $20,000. Capron Park Zoo, $875,000. Fire alarm system testing, $30,000. Fire ambulances, $1,800,000. Health immunization, $10,000. Recreation, $205,000. Animal welfare, $6,000. Police false alarms, $50,000. Animal shelter building, $20,000. Fingerprinting, $3,000.
Thank you.
I respectfully request your honorable body approve the solid waste fee of $358. This is a $33 increase from fiscal year 2025. Fiscal year 26 budget. I respectfully request your honorable body approve the solid waste fee of $52.10 per unit to be credited to fund number 2604 residential special waste disposal for fiscal year 2026. I respectfully submit to your honorable body the proposed water and wastewater enterprise budget for fiscal year 2026. Number 6, in order to fund the water enterprise budget for fiscal year 2026, a $1.29 increase from the fiscal year 2025 water rate is recommended. Therefore, I respectfully request your honorable body strike section 16-11.12 of the revised ordinance in its entirety and replace it with the following. 16-11.12. For each meter set, there shall be a minimum charge of $42.40 for each 3 months. This minimum charge shall cover 500 cubic feet of water used at each connection, and excess over 500 cubic feet shall be charged for at a rate of $8.48 per 100 cubic feet, effective July 1st, 2025. Number 7, in order to fund the wastewater enterprise budget for the fiscal year 2026, a $1.18 increase from the fiscal year 2025 sewer rate is recommended. Therefore, I respectfully request your honorable body strike section 16-18.1 of the revised ordinances in its entirety and replace it with the following. 16-18.1. A charge is hereby established for the use of city sewer system. Such charge, except as otherwise provided in section 16-18.2 and 16-18.3, next below, shall be based on the amount of water supply to any use of the city's water system as shown by the meter readings. The sewer use charge shall be for sewer users and based on 90% of the water used and shall be charged for at a rate of $12.99 per 100 cubic feet, with a minimum charge for each 3 months of $58.46 for the first 450 cubic feet. The sewer rates established hereunder to be effective July 1st, 2025. Number 8, in order to fund the wastewater industrial pretreatment program costs in the wastewater enterprise budget for fiscal year 2026, a 60-cent increase from the fiscal year 2025 industrial pretreatment surcharge is recommended. Therefore, I respectfully request your honorable body strike section 16-18.6 of the revised ordinances in its entirety and replace it with the following. 16-18.6. An industrial user, which is required as a condition of an industrial waste permit to pre-treat its sewage, shall pay a surcharge at the rate of $2.08 per 100 cubic feet. The surcharge shall be in addition to the charge established in section 16-18.1 above. Billing and payment of the surcharge shall be in accordance with section 16-18.4. The money received from said surcharge shall be applied to the payment of costs associated with the administration of the pretreatment program requirements by the city, including purchasing and maintenance of equipment and utilization of contract services where deemed necessary by the superintendent. The surcharge established hereunder to be effective July 1st, 2025. Number 9, As you are aware, a portion of the Water and Wastewater Enterprise fiscal year 2026 budgets include an indirect cost allocation that is used to pay for costs incurred within the general government budget. In accordance with the indirect rates established by the MGT Consulting Group, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $928,605 from Fund 6100 Water Enterprise Fund to the General Government Fund to fund the indirect costs for fiscal year 2026. The dollar amount presented is from the fiscal year 2026 budget book. Please note, this figure excludes the OPEB contribution, reserve fund for transfer, reserve for treatment plant, reserve for capital, and all debt expenses. I also hereby request your honorable body transfer $797,706 from Fund 6000 Wastewater Enterprise Fund to the General Government Fund to provide funding for the indirect costs for fiscal year 2026 budget. The dollar amount presented is from the fiscal year 2026 budget book. This required transfer also excludes the OPEB contribution, reserve fund for transfer, reserve for treatment plant, reserve for capital, and all debt expenses. Number 10, the required interest payment on the AHS ban issued in November of 2024 will mature on November 1st, 2025, fiscal year 2026, in the amount of $212,727.44. Will in part be paid by the premium received. This debt payment must be budgeted as a general obligation within the city's general fund budget in the fiscal year 26 budget. At the time the ban was issued, the city realized a net premium on the ban of $28,155.58. The city will raise the difference between the payment due, $212,727.44, and the net premium amount of $28,155.58 on the DE-1 in the amount of $184,571.66. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $28,155.58 from account 3419397000 AHS Construction Other Financing Uses to account 1000-392000 General Fund Other Financing Sources, and to further transfer the funds from 1000-392000 General Fund Other Financing Forces to account 1000-321300 General Fund Reserve for Premium DE Payment. Number 11, the fiscal year 2026 proposed general government and enterprise budgets has been presented, including a 2% cost of living adjustment, the COLA, for employees that are part of the non-represented classification plan and employees on the pre-existing exempt classification plan. This COLA would take effect on July 1st, 2025. The recommended COLA is consistent with those provided to employees under the city's collective bargaining agreements and is consistent with what was discussed during the review in changes to the non-represented classification and compensation plan. Therefore, in accordance with Section 13-4 Compensation Plan of the revised ordinance of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body approve a 2% increase in the city's compensation plan for fiscal year 26 effective July 1st, 2025. Number 12, FYI. The fiscal year 2025 snow deficit will be covered using available resources during fiscal year 2025. The administration does not intend to raise the snow deficit on the levy. The administration internally earmarked an amount of free cash sufficient to cover the deficit. The anticipated amount to be covered is approximately $650,000. However, outstanding liabilities related to snow are still being paid, and therefore a final snow deficit amount is not available at the time of this message. When available, I will send a request to appropriate free cash to cover the snow deficit in this fiscal year. Sincerely, Kathleen D. Simone, Mayor.
Thank you. As stated prior to the reading of the communication, that will all go to Finance. And Mr. Kobus, would you like to call public hearings on June 3rd for items 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 11?
I would, thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Before we conclude the special meeting, Vice President Coleman will join me at the podium. So, Mr. Rhodes, would you like to join us at the podium?
Sure.
So for those that don't know, tonight is George's last meeting.
Thank you.
So, the council and I decided we were gonna send you out with a bang. So, Attleboro Municipal Council resolution of congratulations for George Rhodes. Whereas George Rhodes will be retiring on May 15th, 2025. George has been with the Sun Chronicle for 26 years, covering stories for the Attleboro and surrounding areas, whereas George has kept the public in touch with a variety of topics, including his coverage of city council meetings. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the entire municipal council of the city of Attleboro wishes to extend its joyous congratulations for George's retirement and wish him continued good health and happiness, signed and sealed this 13th day of May in the year of 2025 by myself, James J. Delisio, council president.
Thank you.
Congratulations, George. So maybe one day when I say, George, you have anything in committee of the whole, maybe the answer will be yes.
Oh, boy.
So, but I believe that Virginia has a little something for you as well.
Just a little tip,
Thank you.
a little bit of your favorites.
It's heavy, it's not gold,
Yeah, okay.
but it's worth its weight in gold.
Okay, thank you.
All right, well, George, thank you very much. All right, George.
Any words, George?
Yes.
No speech?
No speech.
He'll write about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
That being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We adjourned at 7:01. We will now go into committee meetings. We will begin with Public Works. So, Vice President Dolan, we'll just give a few minutes for, kind of get ourselves situated.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, Madam Clerk.
Give me one quick second, people, please. All right. Okay. I would like to call Public Works to order at 7:02. So as you all know, we have guests. We have Superintendent of Public Works, Mike Tyler, and Ken Ho from Beta Group. And this is regarding the light at Rathbun Willard.
Good evening, members of the council. We're here to talk about the lights that were installed in 2022 at the intersection of Rathbun Willard Drive and Thatcher Street, which I've received many phone calls, especially from Councilor Dolan, every time she's stuck in traffic over there, and a lot of concerns about this project. So I just want to start off by saying, please realize it was a very successful project. It was a project that was done in 3 months. The main objective of this set of lights was, number one, was to make sure that we're getting the school zones out safely. A lot of walkers, a lot of buses. So in that time, when I came back before the council, I did tell you, if we were to get the timing right, it would have been a miracle, right? It probably was not going to happen in any way, shape, or form. As we can see today, it has not happened. It's kind of amazing when the close proximity is to the other light and what a huge difference it's made. But please realize there's a lot of mitigating factors to this. So when we first went to propose the light, it was only supposed to be 3 light heads. There was not supposed to be one at Black Oak. During that public hearing, the neighbors of the Black Oak neighborhood kind of put up a little bit of an uproar about it, so that was added. The reason I bring that up is lights or timing. There's only so many seconds that you have, and if I'm taking it from one, you give it to the other. We've made probably about 6 to 8 different changes on the timing then. Some of them a little more effective than others, but we're certainly not getting the results that we want. I'm not going to stand here in front of you and say that we are. But please realize a lot of this has to do with the reopening of Rathbun Willard Drive. One of the changes we first made was we had it on like 144 seconds of allowing Route 123 to continuously flow. That doesn't work for the buses. They were backed up into Studley. So all these changes we made have been for good reasons, Ken here was the lead engineer on the project. He's going to talk about some of the logistics that we tried to date, some of the concerns of why we haven't been able to handle this issue at this time, and possibly some type of corrective action we can take. But please be aware that it's well beyond my abilities. If there was something I could do to wave a magic wand and make it go away, I would certainly do that. But it's not. There's a lot of complications here. So I ask you to kind of bear with him, but please feel free at the end of the time to ask any questions that you have. He can answer the technical questions a lot better than I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
Ken?
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate the opportunity to come here and share with you on, some of the work that we have done at the intersection. I had a very short PowerPoint, but I was told I, can't hook it up. So what I've done is I've made hard copies of the presentation. It's a very short presentation, so I'm just going to hand out copies of my presentation, and you can refer to each of the slides as I walk you through with it. We'll do this the old-fashioned way.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
What is it down for me?
So if you could turn with me to the first slide right there. Basically, what it is on your left, that's Rathbone Whaler Drive. So that's the intersection where we have installed a new traffic light, and approximately 400 feet, basically, east of that intersection is County Square. And that's, that distance that separates the two intersections about 1,400 feet. On the top, it says AADT 23,134. So what that is on any given day, on an average daily, you have 23,000, a little over 23,000 cars that traverse through this section of the roadway. So just put things into a little perspective as to what is that 23,000 vehicle. So on a 2-lane roadway, similar to 123, this corridor right here, the capacity of that roadway is typically, if the volume starts to creep up above 15,000 cars, you start to see back up, so that's really somewhere the capacity. So you right now you have a little over 23,000 cars. So what that means is your roadway capacity is exceeded. So it's almost like a funnel, right? When you pull water in, and you can only fit so many cars, and then the cars that couldn't fit in will just spill over. So when we first look at the corridor and the signal proposed improvement at Rathbone Whaler Drive, the first thing we notice is there are two components that we have to achieve at this intersection: safety and capacity. Okay, so as a traffic engineers, if you can solve both, that would be great. So we know safety is definitely always number one. Capacity, so what would it really take to fit, the 23,000 cars through this 2 lanes of roadway? And in this case, it's pretty clear. We run the number very quickly. You're going to need more lanes. And we have roadways that we have designed, cars with 20,000 cars, you're going to need 4 lanes to fit all that cars in there. But there's really no right-of-way. Imagine you put 4 lanes into this section, you're going to be eating into people's front yard. Sidewalk needs to be relocated. So it wasn't an easy task. So what we have done is we have kept the existing roadway cross-section and with no impact to, the right-of-way, and essentially we create a safe intersection, but have to sacrifice the capacity at this section of the roadway. So what we have done is, okay, is there anything, we can't solve the problem. What can we do to, play with the signal timing? Time it in such a way so that the queuing could somewhat be alleviated. So if you go to the next page, just a little more about the volume before I get into the signal timing, how we time the signal to at least try to help alleviate the queuing. So what we did is we took a look at the comparison of traffic volume on the next page. On the top, it says 2018, and the bottom is 2023. So this is the evening one peak hour. This is just 1 hour during the peak. So we have looked at basically the hours in the morning, basically from 7 to 9, and then we look at in the afternoon during school release, all the way up until 6 p.m. And typically we would look at that what's the worst peak 1 hour, of the analysis. So this is just to capture that one peak hour, and in this case, it's somewhere between 3:30 and 4:30 p.m. So that's that 1 hour that you have looked at in 2018, and that's before the new high school was completed and before the signal was installed. So if you look at the mainline volume, was very high even at the time. You're looking at easily about 1,000 cars plus or minus going, whether it's eastbound or westbound. So that 1 hour, one lane, it's a lot of car to process. And then on Rathbun Wheeler on the side street, at the time it was 88 cars coming out. Now, moving forward, this is after the signal was installed in 2023, we did another traffic count. The main line, you may have seen the volume slightly reduced, so this is after the pandemic. 2018 is before the pandemic. But the volume hasn't really changed much. You're looking at still about 1,000 cars going through, eastbound and westbound. But then on the side street, on Rathbun Wheeler Drive, it's twice as much because now you got the high school and, coming out there 171. So those cars and pedestrians, there are a lot of pedestrians during school release or school picked up, those and drop off. There are a lot of pedestrians. There's a crossing guard out there, and every time you push the button, it takes out at least 25 seconds off the system. And I know Mike earlier had mentioned about, we have, fine-tuned the timing like many, many times. And when we went through this exercise, when we implemented the design, we were saying, gee, because your volume is so high and you have a lot of pedestrian, can we try to accommodate both, right? Make sure the cars are flushing through the intersection, make sure pedestrians can still cross safely. So what we have proposed at the time was what we call is pedestrian phasing, which is concurrent phase. So what that is if Route 123 grows, so pedestrian on the side streets grow, they go at the same time. And then on the side street, when 123 is stopped, basically your main line traffic and your side street go. So that's concurrent, pedestrian crossing the street with the traffic going green. And that didn't work out because there were just so many pedestrians with kids crossing, and people were driving aggressive, Massachusetts. And so we decided, and that concurrent facing is a common practice. It works in certain location and it doesn't work in certain location. In this case, because it's a school, there's a lot of pedestrians. So we shut it down. We work with the police, work with Mike, because let's implement the safest phasing for pedestrian crossing or bikers, And that would be basically when someone pushes a button, everyone stops. Doesn't matter which approach, cars. Everyone has to stop and pedestrian will cross. Doesn't matter which button you push, everyone has to stop. And that's what we have decided to do from a safety standpoint in terms of the students that cross the intersection. And that's what you have today out there. And I can get into a lot of the other phasing, but I'm not going to because I know it will take a lot of time. So I think on the next phase, the next slides that you have, it's basically showing the volume of the county square intersection. Again, I had mentioned earlier, there are 23 cars that goes along 123 corridors. Of the 23,000, right, approximately 17,000 plus in a given day comes from County Street, basically, north. So that shows you how heavy that volume is. If you're on County Street, looking at your slides on the top, making that right turn, everyone wants to head to 128, right? So that volume, that right turn, right now shows during that evening peak hour, it's over 600 cars. And that's very, very high compared to typically on a right turn, we would look at somewhere in the range of 150 to 200 cars. So in this case, it's over 600 cars. So that's a lot of volume. So you have a lot of competing, volume that needs to flush through between the County Square intersection and Rockland Wheeler Drive. So just again, I'm not going to get into too technical and get into details. So on the next slide, where it shows current signal timing. So I just wanted to highlight at the intersection of the school, which is 123 and Rockland Wheeler Drive, we have a time of the day timing that we have set up that's programmed into the intersection. As you can see, Plan 1, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., Saturday and Sunday, we want the signal to run this configuration. Basically is running 123 has less time, and then the side street also have a little less time. But then there's also the 1 p.m., which is we call Plan 2, which is the most recent implemented phasing. From 1 to 4, we have this very, very sophisticated timing phase that we have implemented. And what that really means is that the main line, we want it to come on twice because the queuing is so bad. So especially during the school period, when someone pushes a button, the pet phase will get called, and everyone will cross safely, and we want the main line to come on. So as you go through the cycle, if someone pushed a button and wants to cross again, we want the main line to come on again, so we are basically penalizing the side street, the school driveway, to wait a little longer by giving the main line more green time. And the reason we did that, to skip to have it come on, is because when we were out there, we noticed that when you have a long queue, people were just checking the messages or text message, and there are just long gaps. We have like 140-second cycle, and then the green time was 60 seconds. And there were just big gaps. When you have too long a green time, people were just texting, they didn't realize, oh, well, I got the green. So there was just a lot of wasted time. So we try to capture and build on that by this phase right here. So we have tried, quite a bit of very sophisticated phasing, and I know it's not going to solve the problem, but we're hoping that it's just going to help the situation. The next slide's basically, again, I'm not going to go through the signal phasings that we have for County Square, and so those two signals, we try to time it so that they would work together, or at least try to synchronize those two signals. So is there more potential improvements that we could help alleviate the queue, but not solve the problem? Because to solve the problem is you need 4 lanes, of roadways. And so is there anything that we could do? So in the slides where it says no traffic platform, right? So when we did as you know, technology changes by the day. And 3 years ago, this technology right here that you're looking at is called no traffic platform. It's not available. So now it's available. So it has been deployed for the last probably about a year or less to a few communities. And I have talked to the vendors. And so what this technology is, on your right, it's basically, that's the camera. So this system basically, because it has the AI component, I think we all know, heard AI, does everything, even your writing, ChatGPT, right? If and so what this technology, this camera does, is that it could recognize human behavior, especially if there's a long gap, as I described. If there's a long queue, someone is texting, and it would read and knows that, hey, you have wasted 10 seconds of a green time because there's just a big gap. No one's using it. So it could account for all those, and basically the AI would try to make up and maximize the green time usage so that there's going to be no waste at all. So this is a new technology, and I've talked to the vendors. This is something to consider, Attleboro could consider, is because it's a fairly new technology, they're willing to offer a 90-day free, try. And after 90 days, if Attleboro is not happy, you could just basically, forget about the whole thing, and they'll just take down the camera and they move on. And if Attleboro likes it, then it would cost. I know someone will ask what's the cost. So they're quoting me right now is you're looking at somewhere between 17,000 and 18,000 per unit. So you're gonna need 2 units, one at the high school, the school driveway, and the other one at County Square. So that's what they're offering, if Attleboro is interested, they can install it, and you can try it out for 90 days. So the nice thing about this system detection, the AI, is you can remotely monitor the system. Anyone can have, any authorized staff in Attleboro could access the system and view it and check and report what's not working, the deficiency and all that, including myself. I would have access if Mike allows me or Attleboro allows me to have access. I can review it and pinpoint on the deficiencies or what can be improved. So I think that's just a quick summary of my updates.
Thank you.
Before you start, no, because I seen Councilor Dolan look at me, then when you said 17 to 18,000, she's like, this is not the system we were talking about before of the upgrade of the 165,000. So I just want to make sure there's clarity on that.
Thanks.
Ken kind of explained that to me earlier.
Mike, if you could stick around too, and just make sure the questions that I ask that I'm accurate, that I'm using the right language. I know we've talked about this
Yeah, absolutely.
extensively, so just in case I get anything wrong, I don't wanna, so thank you for, coming. I really appreciate it. And, so in your short presentation here, you don't mention anything about, I call it a relay, Mike, what's it really called? The post that is sitting there that doesn't work? What is
Yes.
that?
Yep. So the post that was there when we had first installed it is one of the a repeater. So what it is, yes. So, yes.
So, unfortunately, the repeater that we paid for as a city, we may as well put a bird's nest on it because it doesn't work, right? So, I appreciate your presentation, and, and I appreciate the fact that you said safety first, right? And so I think we probably all agree that safety is the most important thing. When you look at your counts, I mean, I'm not sure if I agree with the counts as far as fairness when you're comparing 2018 to 2023 as a project that was done in 2022. So I think those numbers should have been more accurate in the sense of capturing them before we started this project. And bear with me because I have a lot of notes here and I don't want to, I'm appreciative that you're here and I don't want to miss anything. So I know we used traffic counts from 2019. The project was started in 2022 in the summer, which was a great project. It went fast. Most of it was amazing. But, I have an email here when I know there were subcontractors that did all different things. And I know that there was a subcontractor that opened up the light at County Square, and that's analog. And so back in 2022 of November, we knew at that point that that wasn't going to talk to anybody, that these lights were not going to talk to anybody. The relay wasn't going to confirm or function in any way, shape, or form. And then the Cat 5 cable, the coax, the 850 feet was too far, because I have the email that says, if you could indulge me, if I could read it. The plans call for a 15-foot post to be installed approximately 850 feet from the cabinet, the repeater. The post is meant to be mounted, a mounting point for the radio. The radio originally submitted, so this is what you could clarify for me, Mr. Ho, too, as well. The radio originally submitted and subsequently rejected was a PoE device. The logical length limitation on Ethernet over Cat5 cable and POS is about 350 feet. The 850-foot distance from the cabinet far exceeds the limitation. When the Elite radio was rejected, which would have addressed this issue, an alternative was submitted and approved. The radio utilizes an external antenna connected via coax. Again, coax runs of 850 feet will not work either. Also, during the submittal process, the vendor proposed GPS time sync receivers to maintain accurate time of day between the two locations, and those were rejected as well. So my first question is, when this vendor, Scott, says these were rejected, who were they rejected by? Were they rejected by your company?
We didn't really reject the, I think when Scott Niss, the vendor, had pointed out the length of the communication, which was not great because because by
Non-existent, right?
Right, it's very, very long, and so we did not. I don't believe we rejected. So what we have done is basically the repeater was basically the function of the repeater was because. The intent was to have two radios, one at the high school and then one at county. And because of the sight line, there's a curve, right? So the repeater has to be able to see, has a clear sight line. the radio that is. So in this case, we have recommended that, because there's a sight line of the curve, so we would need to have a repeater, basically to, intercept one and then shoot over the other one. So that's what that repeater was for.
That doesn't work.
That doesn't work, and it was because the coaxial wire was over 800 feet. So what we have done is that system was to provide communication with the two signal, and because it doesn't work, so the main thing was because we want the signal to be able to synchronize to each other. So there are two other ways to synchronize it if you don't have the communication. One is the GPS, which we didn't spec for the GPS as part of the system. But we have said that because the repeater is not working, so there are two internal clock. Any controller open, they have internal clock, time clock. So this is the old-fashioned way of synchronizing two signal. And so we had used that internal clock. There's an internal clock at the county square and an internal clock at the school driveway. So that's what we've been using to synchronize the signal because of the repeater that doesn't work.
Right.
And then we realized that, we tested the coordination for probably a few months, and we realized that it's not working because basically the volume is just, way too much.
Right. So, and the synchronizing, so now this pole is useless, which is unfortunate because we paid for it. Also, with the synchronizing isn't working either. And I'll tell you one of the reasons, and Mike will tell you how many phone calls he receives from me when I'm sitting at that light.
Sure.
If you look at your, just so you know which way I'm talking about, page 4, Thatcher Street westbound. So when we talk about safety first, so you have Thatcher Street westbound, which is usually 99% of the time of where I'm going, and the complaints that I've received are going in this direction as well. I have sat at Thatcher Street for 7 cycles before I can even get up to the light. And the reason being is because all the traffic coming off County, as you can see, where it's like Pembroke comes off County to take a right. So the people coming up County are filling up the box and filling up the queue. So my light's green, but I have to sit there. I can't go unless I want to sit in the box and cause an accident. So that obviously is irritating to me and anybody else who's sitting there. And the irritation gets to the point when we talk about safety, where I'm sitting there going westbound, I'm hypothetically 3 cars back. The people that are behind me now are livid, hair's on fire. They go up Thatcher Street, so it would be eastbound, incoming traffic. They go up on the opposite side of the street, get into the box to take their left on the county street. So we might have safety a little bit better up at the Rathbun side, but County Square has been, the road rage that I have witnessed, and talk about the person that crosses the crossing guard. I would fear for their life because they're so close to the traffic and the people are nuts. So my problem is, my biggest problem is this, and I think you're a very nice person, and I don't pretend to be an engineer in any way, shape, or form. I work in insurance. But with all this, I feel like as an engineering firm, and I do realize that the engineer that designed this is no longer with the company, has moved on elsewhere. But I feel like once that light was opened up and it was an analog, we knew it was never gonna talk to the post, and the post was never gonna talk to the other light. Something should be done, because now we're doing timing, and the timing's not working. It's not working at all. And also, when you talk about the pedestrians crossing, we did this exactly for that reason. There were 3 schools on that street, which is not a surprise to anybody. We knew there were 3 schools on that street, elementary, middle, and high school, all of which whomever are walkers need to cross, and they're gonna push that button. The crossing guard's gonna push that button because, you know, people drive fast on that street. You wanna make sure that everybody crosses safely. So those are partially some of my comments, and I went through, I read everything about split reallocation, phase truncation, and then you had observations back on 2024, the field observations conducted between 2:30 and 6 p.m. that I also read, and sorry, I know I'm being long-winded, but I don't want to let you go without getting all this information out there. So my problem is, whatever these were that were rejected, I'd like to know why they were rejected and if they would have done anything to help this, because I feel like these workarounds we're not getting what we paid for as a city. And I, for one, I know some counselors are newer than I am. You know, when we fork out millions of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then something doesn't work, or then the roof leaks, or whatever the case is. So this, we're doing the workaround, we have the relay or repeater there that doesn't function. It's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. I know you said that we need 4 lanes, and I agree. We have a lot of people in this city, but nothing's changed. I mean, I'll give you some additional cars going through there, but we're not that much of a bigger city than we were when this started. So I feel like, and to be honest, and with as much respect as possible, that we didn't get what we paid for, and which is a functioning lights that aren't talking to each other, and we're just messing with the timing, and that's just not working. It's not working. And we did it for safety, and we did it for the right reasons. I voted for this light. But I think we're sacrificing safety at County Square, because the things that I've seen, it's just a matter of time before something bad happens there. So I want to know if you could answer when you said you don't understand what it says about rejected, because this is when you sent an email to Scott asking him if everything was functioning. You wanted to confirm that equipment was fully installed and operational, and so on and so forth. So these suggestions that Scott made, why were they rejected? And if they weren't rejected, would they have fixed the problem?
In hindsight, I think just looking at based on the volume, even if the repeater is working, I think you will still see the queuing that you see today. So I think because the repeater is basically to help basically telling, the communication between the 2 signals. Just because the amount of time that the pedestrian button that's pushed and the number of cars that's called coming out from the school, so those are all requiring 123 to stop, right? So pedestrian, every time you push the pedestrian button, everyone has to wait for 22 seconds. Everyone, okay? And then every time when someone is coming out, this is 22 seconds for the pedestrian, someone has to wait. And then someone on the side street coming out to school, basically, you have to wait somewhere between, depending on, it's about another 15 seconds. So that's a total of 37 seconds. In the signal timing world, 30 seconds, it's a long time that you have to held car on 123.
Right.
And so the repeater, even if it's working, it's not going to compensate for the 37 seconds that you have to stop. Someone has to come out. Pedestrian has to cross.
great, I understand that, and, you know, even if the repeater was working, which it's not, and it never did, but, so, if we think about that there's an elementary, middle, and high school there, I think the latest the kids get out is, I wanna say 3:20, it's been a long time, but I wanna say 3:20. So we knew pedestrians would be there, we knew there would be numerous pedestrians, and at different times, depending on high school, middle school, elementary school. Fine, I'll give you till 3:30 for everybody to cycle through, maybe 4 o'clock. But when it comes to 4:30, 5 o'clock, the pedestrian, I would assume the pedestrian traffic has to be a lot less come 4:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30. And again, I have sat through light after light after light that I can't get there. I can see it's green, I can't get there because the queue in County Square has backed it up. Now me, again, not being an engineer in any way, shape, or form, I would think that the person who I realize is gone, but you know, you're the beta company that is responsible for this, would have taken everything into consideration, all forms of traffic, westbound, northbound, southbound, eastbound, County Square, the lights, how the lights function before we installed this light at Rathbun. And I just feel like, you know, forget the repeater, which sets my hair on fire that it doesn't work, and that we paid for it, and that it's installed, and it doesn't work. As I sit here today, and Mike, bless his heart, has put up with me for the past 2 years, with all due respect, I don't think we got what we paid for. I don't think that this is functioning as designed and as promised. It wasn't delivered. And that's why I wanted you here today, because I'm not the only counselor or resident that feels a way about this location. And, you know, again, with all due respect, and thank you for being here, but after the emails I've read and after speaking with Mike and, you know, going through your information here and all the contracts and the scope of the project, I don't know if it was the gentleman that left, I don't know if he didn't scope it properly, but this does not function as I believe it was promised to function. It has made everything 500 times worse for everybody. And with that, I'm gonna, Mike, did you want to add anything before I open it up for other questions for other counselors?
I did not. I mean, I think,
Okay, you just looked like you were gonna say something.
We're all kind of discouraged about what's happening down there. I mean, I hate to hear people telling me that they do avoid that intersection at all costs after we spent $1.3 million. Again, I think we need to work on a solution that's better than what we got today. I'm just not sure with all the traffic. I've lived on County Street now for 26 years. We're right back to where before we did the improvements at County Square.
Yeah, and
Right
it's
back to where
unfortunate
that was.
because we spent all that money on that light for safety, for all these reasons, and as I sit here right now, that might be the worst vote I ever took because it's so frustrating, to say the least. So I'm gonna open it up to my committee first, if any of my committee, do any of my committee members have any comments? Councilor Angelo?
Thanks, Councilor Dolan. Thanks, guys, for coming down. Would you say that opening up the high school coming down Rathbun Roller Drive is added to this problem versus how it was before, where the high school had to just go straight and head towards West Street?
So it's certainly added to it. As I said earlier, when we started having the initial problems here after the light was installed, and I have to give credit to Beta. Like I said, they haven't stopped working on this project with us, even though the project was 3 years ago. So I need to give them kudos on that. They could have just said, we fulfilled our obligations, you know, go talk to somebody else. They have not done that, and I expect that from Ken. It certainly did affect, with the opening of the roadway, the numbers that they actually said that it would increase to what they actually did increase. When I asked the police department to do the traffic counts, and that's the one that Laura, you have with you, and I know Ken used those part of your presentation. Those were done by the Attleboro Police. When the chief and I reviewed those, we were like, oh my gosh, we're in big trouble. We were not expecting numbers anywhere near like that. We were expecting somewhere between 15, maybe 16,000. When you start seeing those numbers, we're getting a little bit of concern. I think that's why I haven't been pressed so much by both public safety chiefs, if you will, because they were shared the information with. So it has, but not that much. I think it's probably more of a 50-50. You're giving people now 2 different ways to get in and out of there. I don't think that's the biggest issue. The biggest issue we had with the schools was, like I said, originally when we had it on the main drag on 144 seconds, I believe it was, we had buses backed up into Studley, which is something we can't have. So that's the only thing that I've personally seen from it. Most people, because of those speed humps, they avoid that area at all costs. So I don't really see it that way, being Councilor Energy.
All set, Counselor Angelo?
Yes.
Thank you. President Delacio?
Thank you. Vice President Dolan, fantastic job, fantastic questions. I appreciate your passion. I appreciate a lot, most of what you said. Mike, you and I have talked about this several times over the years. Appreciate you always picking up the call. This is a hard equation to fix for sure, but it's one that needs to be fixed. Ken, thanks for coming down. I'm certainly intrigued by the AI options, but I have to ask, are you affiliated in any way with that no traffic? So was this a sales pitch? Are you getting any kind of compensation if the city goes with this product?
No, I'm not.
Okay, thank you. That makes me feel a lot better. If I may, just a little more leeway, Vice President Dolan. The 2018 versus the 2023 comp, what month of the year was that?
It was in October.
It was October, okay. So I guess the concern that I have is multi-pronged. One, and Vice President Dolan touched on it, traffic makes people do crazy things. Run red lights, road rage, leaning on their horns, blowing their horns, trying to change lanes to try to change directions to get out of that. So that's something that concerns me. I think that the timing is more or less it's a Band-Aid on a knife wound. I think it comes down to the road test, to the eye test, and right now I think we're failing that road test. My concern is the people who live on county, the neighbors, the commuters, people. I mean, I've seen it backed up Thatcher going down past the John Williams, and I've heard from folks who live down that way. I drive that down from here to County Street 3-4 times a week. What are some of the options other mitigating options we have at our disposal? And I'm not a traffic guy, I don't pretend to play one on TV, but, have we thought about turning Rathburn Willard going towards Thatcher into one way from 3 to 7, a do not enter from 3 to 7? Would that alleviate some of the traffic that goes all the way down to Mike's house, past Capron Park?
No, we have not looked at the one-way configuration option.
And I don't know if that'll work, if I may. I don't know if that'll work, but I just think that this isn't a conventional problem, which I think we need to make sure that we are looking at non-conventional solutions on this. Because, I think for all of us, when we're talking with residents and the phone calls we get, it's traffic, it's trash, it's speeding, and this is a traffic issue, and we're hearing a lot about it. And I mean, going down to 95, all of it, I mean, it's an issue. So, thank you, Vice President Dolan.
So, Councilor Delissio, President Delissio, I'm sorry. I guess the last alternative that I'd like to see utilized before I could put that in front of the city council or the mayor or basically the both chiefs is to do something like they did at Hallcott originally. Hallcott used to shut down at a certain time after schools relieved, and that was left in flash mode until the traffic picked back up in the morning. That did change once they put the Robbins Center in there, because now they needed to get that traffic out. There needs to be a long discussion about the pros and cons of doing something like that.
That's a great example.
Both of my kids went to both of those schools over there, and they're not just schools anymore, they're community centers. Yep. I mean, people spend not 24 hours a day, but 18 hours a day, those schools are being operated in some way, shape, or form. So that would be a concern, but it's certainly an option that could be put on the table, but I would call it the atomic option, if you will.
if I may to that, I just think, I think we have to take a look at this because there is so much focus, there is so much attention, and it's not just the school that it's affecting the neighbors going all the way down County Street, all the way down Thatcher Street, both directions, impacting folks who live in Sugar Creek, I know that, folks, you know, Rome Boulevard, the other side of Rathburn, even West Street. So, I mean, it's certainly something that the tentacles are in. It was an important product and a vote that we all voted for. I remember former President Cooper talking pretty passionately about this as well. So it's something that, you know, we've been focusing on for some time.
Council Foa.
Thank you. Can we get rid of parking along the streets, along Thatcher? Just no parking
On Thatcher?
on Thatcher.
Thatcher.
Oh, we need more lanes, right? We need more space. Is there parking which is using some of that space? No parking?
No.
So the future plan with the next phase of that project, which hopefully it's a little longer than it needs to be, but as you all know, we're looking to put a corridor project on there, and at that time, the recommendation would be coming in front of the city council to eliminate all parking on there at that point, but not at this point, there's not.
So there's no parking between county
But
and...
before we get this corridor project, putting pen to paper with this thing, we're at 25% right now, we need to solve this issue.
Okay, my other question is there any limitation to how many times somebody pushes a button within a 5-minute period or 3-minute period? Can we limit that so that...
They'll run across the street.
So that I can't answer, there's not, and actually even the timing's set because not everybody's able-bodied, so it does take, you know, there's 88 requirements with those.
No, I'm not suggesting that we shorten the period of where everybody gets to stop and all the pedestrians get to walk.
Ken would have to answer that, I don't, not to my knowledge.
I'm asking whether we can reduce the number of times that happens over the course of...
I think what you're saying is that, can you skip, right? If someone if every cycle, someone push the button, can you not have one cycle without the pedestrian phase, right?
Yes, okay.
I think that's what you were
That's
asking.
probably a good way of describing it.
We generally do not encourage, because we're penalizing pedestrian who wants to cross.
Right.
And they have to wait longer.
Yes.
So I think it sometimes provide a false sense of security because if at 9, say for example 1 to 4, right? You push the button and you gotta wait twice as long.
Yes.
And then beyond 1 to 4, you push it every time and it comes on. So the general public typically do not remember, oh gee, do I have to wait twice or do I have to wait once? So that create a false sense of security. And so we generally do not recommend penalizing pedestrian crossing time.
Well, I'm not sure I would describe it as a penalty so much as everybody in that area, pedestrians as well as drivers, know that it's a problem. And if between 1 and 4 you have to wait longer before you can cross the street, but that allows traffic to move, I think people will be willing to wait longer and will understand the cause of it.
If I could touch on that for a minute, there used to be 4 crosswalks between Rathburn Willow Drive and Schnell. Right? And those we eliminated those because the kids were crossing wherever they wanted, whenever they wanted. Most of them go on the backside of Studley, down Anderson, and come across over there. So the safest place to cross the road is at a signalized intersection. So we wanted to push everybody down there. But I will add, if the city council does think of someday, going into a flash mode, the PED buttons do not work when the lights are in flash mode. They will not work at all. So if the lights do get shut off after school's open, those PED buttons, as far as I know, Ken, if once lights are in flash mode, the PED buttons will no longer work. So
Thank you.
just something to consider.
Council Cobus?
Thank you. First and foremost, Vice President Dolan, I very much appreciate you driving this and bringing people before us and your due diligence here. I very much appreciate that. And then I do have a little bit of a background with some engineering, and one of the things that I know is whenever sort of we're completing a project, there's quite a bit of testing to make sure everything works. And so one of the things that I'm struggling to understand is how we didn't understand that the signal wasn't communicating between the two intersections until months later, and we were like, oh, it doesn't seem like the traffic is improving, and so that seems odd to me. And as a result, as part of that, one of my questions is my main question is, of the, what was it, $1.3 million, have we paid all of that out, or are we still holding back a portion of that, and if so, how much?
Council Cobus,
The
we're not.
contract for
and
the
contract with
engineering
Bain was
oversight was
$130,000.
$130,000.
130.
The rest
So
was for
we
everything
kept-
else.
We kept small increments back, but every time we had to, so they don't do the timing. They come up with the schematic, okay, and that's another company, Dago Electric, that with that technician has to come in.
Of the 130,
Put that
then,
in, so.
have we held some of that back?
Yes, yeah, so we've liquidated all of that, because of doing those adjustments.
No, you haven't held any back from paying Beta, that's what he's asking you. Beta is paid in full.
Yeah, we haven't, yes, they've been paid in full.
Okay, so
After they made the-
regardless
after they made
of the, it wasn't tested, or what was delivered didn't sort of meet what we had asked for, regardless of any of that, they've been paid.
Well, because we were informed that it didn't matter if they were in there or not, it wasn't going to work. So I think at that point, you gotta make a decision. What are we gonna split hairs over if it's not going to work? If somebody would have said to me that, and there was a great technician there at first, Bill. Right. And Bill was one of the smartest guys on the East Coast when it comes to these lights, and he's an actual programmer. And he actually said it the very first day he turned them on at County Square, because that's how Laura and I started this conversation way back then. Because he asked me, he said, what are you trying to do with this? And I was standing there with the deputy police chief, kind of told him what we were looking to do. He says, hang on.
Right, which brings me
It's not gonna
back to
work.
my original comments, that as an engineering company, I don't know, I know Bill Daigle, is he?
No, he went for a company that was subsidized, because these were, you gotta remember, when we were doing this project, it was during COVID. Things were very scarce to find, and we were on the deadline to open up this intersection, I think it was August 29th.
I do remember that.
So we were out there on August 28th, programming traffic lights, right?
I
So,
remember.
it was challenging, to say the least. That's why Bill was there, because he's there's only two that I know on the East Coast, and that's Bill and Sean, that are really the best at what they do for this programming. Because once you put a new timing schematic in here, it has to be monitored. You can't just walk away, because you could have just created a disaster and you don't even know it. Right? So you have to physically stand there for a couple hours, see if you're getting any reaction. You gotta do it at certain times of the day. The system that Ken was talking about, the artificial intelligence thing, we're certainly leaning towards going to that, but it wouldn't make any sense to put it in until September. So if it's gonna be on a 3-month trial, we certainly don't want a 3-month trial to be during the middle of summer. It's not gonna tell us if it's effectiveness. So there's a lot of different areas that have to be looked at before making a decision.
Yeah.
But again, that's why I said that earlier, Councilor Davis, is that he's helped.
All right, so Counselor Reynolds, then Counselor Voy, and then Counselor.
I just want to know, because I agree that with what you said about the extra lanes and how almost impossible it would be, but if we do that corridor, and when that comes up, that would create some extra lanes, correct? So it's almost like, I mean, if the corridor thing happens, you're actually talking about even having a centerpiece. So what I'm saying is, why we can't, we need to decide if we're doing that, if it is going to happen, when would it happen, and would that somewhat eliminate or alleviate some of this? I mean, for us that live in South Attleboro, I come up this way a lot, every day, 3 times a day. to me, it doesn't even come close to what is going on in South Attleboro at certain times of the day at the intersections, especially from the Coelho Middle School. Same thing. You back up, they all take the side roads, the buses do, everybody does, just like they do here. But they have nowhere to go, thank God, because they'd be going in neighborhoods just like in South Attleboro. The buses are now crossing through. And they've increased the roadways, you know, so that there's more ways to turn right, left, and whatnot, and people still do it because they found the shortcuts. I don't envy the position you're in because I don't really see the solution other than extra lanes, and even that, we have to decide what's happening with the corridor, if that is even going to come to pass. So, it's great, I think Laura is right on top of it, but is there a solution? I don't think there's a definitive one, no. That's my own.
Thank you.
thought.
Council LaVoy?
Thank you, Vice President Dolan. Thank you for coming out. I guess I would disagree with the notion that, you know, we've solved anything here. It seems like we've made everything worse. The traffic count per hour on the peak hour is down almost 200 cars, and yet we're seeing a bigger issue. We had crossing guards there before. We still had all three schools and people going down that way who would stop traffic. If anything, more unsynchronized because the crossing guard would do it manually back then, and we had a lot further up. And this has only made it 30 times worse, and it's not in school hours because, you know, I taught my wife how to go around this intersection, and she goes to work at 5:30, and it's backed up past the highway yard. I think I've texted Mike 4 or 5 times, hey, I'm sitting down, you know, lower Thatcher, and I've been in this line for 45 minutes, and I've videoed it, and, you know, so it seems like the number one priority is safety, but the only thing this has done is made everything in the area unsafe. The side streets are all cut through as raceways now because people cut through on the county side and they'll come up, you know, down by the high school, Bushy Street. All those side streets are now racetracks. I'd imagine now everyone on this side is all going to Black Oak Drive to catch that light. So the only thing we've done now is we've added 22 cycles an hour that we didn't need to add. And 9 times out of 10, the left turn arrow onto Rathbun Willard is lit up, and it slows down the outbound side where the backup's happening, and there's no one turning left. So you have 20 to 30 seconds of a green arrow that's letting ghosts turn onto Rathbun Willard Drive, and then nobody outbound is moving. So I think it's great to look into the AI option, but I think we have plenty of solutions that we haven't even looked at. If we maybe eliminate Black Oak Drive, eliminate the green arrow at certain times of the day, make it a blinking yellow arrow, you know, I don't know, but I think rushing to more money seems to be the last option. But I did have a couple questions on the AI. One would be the warranty on the device itself if it failed or anything happened to it. Is the installation free, and is there any annual costs, or are those the annual costs?
I can confirm the details from the vendors. My understanding is the first 90 days, everything is at no cost to the town. And yes, there is a subscription fee, Verizon, because we want to have remote access. Whoever is in the town official would like to have remote access to the intersection via the camera, whether it's Mike or myself. So there is that fee, which is part of the 90-day trial period. So it's at no cost to Attleboro for the 90 days, including installation. That's my understanding.
If I could follow up real quick. So if we spend $36,000 on 2 cameras, one, are these going to talk to each other? I would hope so with AI, but, and then the follow-up would be, so Attleboro writes a check for $36,000, we get 2 cameras. What else are we spending? Those are gonna, $36,000 will cover, I don't know, 10 to 15 years of the 24/7 customer service they give us and everything? Or is there gonna be a vendor fee on top of the Verizon fee? Because, I mean, great if so, but $36,000 seems like a low number to have this service, the cameras, and then customer support for the endless amount of time these cameras operate.
Yeah, we haven't got into that details, and if Attleboro is interested, we can certainly have them write up, in writing, not verbal, some sort of a contract, stating, after 90 days, if Attleboro wants to take over and is happy with the system, this is going to be the cost. And the long-term, whatever subscription fee that if there is. So that's going to be all, written out. So that's something that we would have to, request.
And then my other follow-up would be, if we went with the AI, and again, I don't know that that's the answer, I think we should look into other things, but if we did, how does that impact what the state does further up? Will they have a system that's gonna communicate, because they're gonna put in a massive system in the next 5 years, whatever? Is this not gonna communicate with their system? How does that happen?
Well, if the state were to move forward, you're talking about the interchange project, that is, right? If they were going to put a brand-new signal there, then, which we are designing, we would require the state to have a system that's compatible with the AI.
Thank you. Did you say which you were designing? Beta Group's designing that?
Yes, the state has hired a beta to design the interchange of 123 and 95.
Okay. Council Holmes?
Thank you. I just have a couple quick questions. Thank you for all your work, Vice President Dolan, too. I really appreciate this. So how many times since the system has been set up have you made adjustments? The timeline, just quickly, please.
I want to say, if I have to estimate, I think it's probably somewhere in at least 6 to maybe 5-6 times.
5-6 times?
Yeah,
Always during the school, when school?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It was all during school in sessions.
When was the last time?
The last time was probably, what, a month or 2 months ago?
I think it was 2 months ago.
2 months ago?
2 months ago,
Yeah.
okay. And the system, I know that you went through the plan 1, 2, and then the weekend plan. When school is out, that plan is not, what happens to that plan?
It goes to free, basically, it would go to free. So basically, the system has the video camera detection system. We set the time, let's say for, the side street at the school, we set it to 16-second max, okay? If there's just one car, it would just surf one car for 4 seconds maybe, and it'll shut off. So it has that intelligent built-in, the camera.
Yeah, I think that there are still some things that we have not tried and hoping for a solution here. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thanks. Council Waterman?
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this all up in the first place. Did I hear, Mike, I think maybe you mentioned it, I could be wrong. You mentioned County Square and the intersection and the crosswalks, and that there's an increase of road rage. Did I hear that? In County Square itself?
I think you heard that from me.
Heard it from you?
Yes.
Okay, I know I heard it. And I've heard that there's been some road rage recently up in that area. At least I'm presuming that was road rage, and some people have come close to being hit. So, are there any plans to protect that area, the crosswalks, when children might be on that, or anybody on it? That's my question, and you may not be the right person to ask, so.
So I'm sorry.
For improvements on it?
Right, to increase the safety, because road rage, people might not have time to get across because people are speeding.
Right. It's at County Square.
Correct.
Right. So County Square is a crossing guard,
Right.
right, during school hours, so
Right.
he does both of those. He does both crosswalks across it. He stands outside the pharmacy at the set of lights there, so I don't know what more they could actually do to increase.
Right, if
The problem is what Councilor Dolan talked about. I'm calling it block the box. It's not technically called block the box. If you're blocking the box is actually painted in the roadway. and that's a finable offense. But they're staging into the areas where you know you can't go anywhere, but you're gonna go anyways. Right, so you can see on the right-hand turn that there's no room to stage you, but you're gonna get out there anyway. So what did you just do? You shut down, now with Thatcher Street, the people from Thatcher Street can't come across. Or then they decide to come across, and now they're blocking the box where the cars can't go. So a lot of it is people's, and I get it, sitting there, I get it, believe me, I hear it all the time. But it can be, you know, if you sit there for 4 or 5 cycles, you're actually, geez, what am I doing here, right? I mean, it's just, it's a ridiculous amount of time. A lot of it's from people just being aggravated, all right? And that's where the safety issue comes in. I'm not talking about the traffic volume, you know, isn't what it is, but the unsafe things I've seen are from people that were impatient or just totally lost at that time. They actually passed a car on the left, right, and then came around County Square this way, just so they could get by those 2 cars that would stage in the intersection. So I don't know what we could do about that, except, and ask the chief to have more of a police presence when, you know, schools getting out, but it's dangerous. We made a lot of adjustments down there. Like I said before, it was not a total lockdown intersection at Rathburn Road Drive in Thatcher Street. That's what the chief requested. The chief of police said, I want a total lockdown here, right? So it was set up before, like if you come out of Locust Street, if you go onto Locust Street at South Main Street, those lights go into flash mode at 7 p.m. And that's why there's a sign there, watch for people in crosswalk, because the cars are turning out of there, taking a right. So the chief did not want that on 123. We allowed the cars that actually take a left, headed westbound out of Rathburn Road Drive on 123, those were supposed to be a total stop too. We changed that over to, you know, you could proceed after looking, you know what I mean? Because before that was totally locked out too. So every time you do something like that, we're able to take those seconds and put it back into the timing schematic. We just ran out of seconds.
Thank you. Council Sawyer, and then Council Holmes, and then we're gonna be all set after that. Go ahead, Council Sawyer.
Thank you. I wonder, is there a plan, something that we're thinking of doing from this meeting? Like, are we going to retime the things? Are we going to look into those AI things? Are we going to change the way the timing is at County Square? Do we have a plan, something to look at to try to make things better? Then I know we're talking about a lot. I was wondering if there's anything that we're looking at changing now to, you know, make.
I think that's what we're doing. We're trying to put all the options on the table.
Okay.
We don't want to solve one problem and create a problem somewhere else either. So it's very different, because if Thatcher Street, this is my personal opinion, and Ken certainly has a lot more experience than I do on this. If 123 was straight onto Thatcher Street, we wouldn't be experiencing half the problems that we're having. It's because 123 turns. So, and as it turns, the volume of traffic turns with it. So that's one of the bigger problems that we have, and that's what the technician, when we first put these lights in, told me. He said, it's not going to work because the turns, right? So it was certainly depressing to hear somebody say that the night of we were going to fire him up, but it was actually a very true statement.
Council Holmes?
That's it. I think that's a good point to end on.
Okay, so to end all this, and also on Councilor Sawyer's point, what's the end game? What's the end? What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Or do we need to hire another company? Or what do we need to do to make this work?
So I think, Ken just told me about the AI proposal recently, so I think that's something we need to try. But unfortunately, like I said, we wouldn't be able to put that, it wouldn't make any sense to implement it until September. If we're on a 3-month trial, we certainly don't want to be in schools closed. So I'm going to suggest that to the mayor. The mayor makes those final decisions, but I can't see why she wouldn't want to do anything possible to try to alleviate something. But if I hear this presentation correctly, it's not going to be the cure-all. It's going to be able to fix some things, but not all.
All right, well, go ahead, Mr. Ho.
Yes, if I may, again, what I'm hearing is that I think the backup really it's at the school intersection, right? Because once they have the green light, they're pretty much clear, heading into 95. So if we could, I know we have tried this, and this is something very simple that we could try, and that is we could held back the school driveway a little longer, because right now, a little longer and reducing the green time from 15 to perhaps maybe 12 seconds. Every second's count, but we can reduce the green time, meaning more green time for 123, held them longer because we have 120-second cycle. I know we have tried 140-second cycle at one point. Maybe we could extend the green time for the overall intersection from, try 130. So basically, you're increasing more time for 123, and you're taking away, say, 3 seconds away, and held them longer on the school driveway. So you're allocating all that green time to 123. So that's something we could try, with the timing. Basically, at the end of the day, is we want more green time for 123 so we could flush them out, right? So, but from the pedestrian standpoint, I would not recommend, because pedestrian, kids crossing, safety, that's number one. I would not recommend making any change to that.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Mr. Ho, for coming here. And I really appreciate your time, and I hope that you just keep trying everything until this works, because something has to give, and it's just a matter of time before safety becomes an issue, if it hasn't already happened yet. So we need to make something happen. And that's it, I guess. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. Where am I? So it's still my committee, isn't it? From the docket of May 20th. Nope, I don't want that one. From the docket of May 20th, 25, I entertain a motion to transfer $6,946.40 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Public Works Maintenance Traffic Light for a damaged traffic signal at the corner of Pleasant and Emery.
Second.
Thank you. So this is, like it says, you guys probably don't want me to go into detail, you're probably sick of listening to me, but anyway, it's the traffic light at Emery and Pleasant. There was an accident, it was hit, we put in an insurance request. There was a shortfall of $6,946.40. The total was $24,900, and the insurance company paid $17,953.60. Does anybody have any questions?
Actually, I do have a question. So there's a shortfall. Does the city go back to the insurance company of the accident of the car that would have done this?
So, so it says here, the traffic signal on the corner of Pleasant and Emery was damaged by a vehicle accident over 2 years ago and was never repaired due to insurance denial issues. The city finally placed a claim under our insurance. So if we place it under our insurance, we get paid by our insurance. Our insurance company will subrogate it with their insurance company to recoup that money. So apparently our insurance company paid us $17,953.60. And then when we put out the RFQ for the traffic light, it was $24,900 with a short of $6,900.
Hence probably increase in cost and everything else.
Sure, it's just a combination of everything. Does anybody else have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Let's see. From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the following transfer of $22,000 from account park salary to the following: $1,500 to park lights and power, $9,500 to park maintenance of equipment, $9,000 to parks professional services, $2,000 to park police details.
Second.
So this is, thank you, Derek, for taking this from salary and wages. Obviously, there's money in salary and wages, and this is to get through professional service, equipment repair, police details, lights, power, and all that good stuff. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. New business. Oh, and I have another sheet here, which of course I'm not gonna be able to find, but I'm gonna wing it here. I entertain a motion to strike the additional curbside handicap parking space in the Union Street and Dunham Street area.
Second?
So the reason I'm striking this is because, working with the owner of the building and, Gary Arasian, so this is for the Jewel. And they put a handicap space in their back parking lot instead of taking up a space on the street. Okay? Does anybody have any questions? So we thank them for their cooperation. They gave us no grief at all and installed it and painted it and everything was great. Does anybody have any questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. And that's all I have tonight. So I would like to call for adjournment at 8:20.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, we are adjourned, thank you. Who's next on the list?
This will be Pamela Thorson's. Council Cobus isn't here?
Well, there's a list of
Seeing as
the order.
Council Cobus is here, if I could defer to the next committee.
Yeah. Does anybody have the list available?
Yes.
He is.
So
Oh, I'm
traffic and
sorry.
transportation.
Oh, mine. Traffic and transportation is no business this evening. Next appropriate time will meet.
Looks like I'm next. Zoning, Land Use, and Sustainability Committee has no business tonight, and we will meet at the next time.
So I will jump back in. I call ordinances, elections, and legislative matters to order at 8:21. Members of my committee include myself, Councilor Holmes, and Councilor Cobus. In the docket of May 20, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the recommendation of the Board of Election Commissioners and the Attleboro Police Department for the number of officers needed to staff Attleboro's polling locations for 2025 calendar year.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. So this is an annual request that we generally receive from the Board of Election Commissioners, and this is triggered by state law. So under MGL Chapter 54, Section 72, the chief or the deputy meet with the chair of the election commission every January, and they make recommendations for the number of police details at each ward and precinct, and the determination is made by the police and the election commission concurrently. So this is not a request for any additional funding. This is something that's already planned for in the election budget every year. So this is just a routine request to comply with state law and just be generally informational. Any questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. That concludes the business of ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. I call for an adjournment at 8:23.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Call to order Human Resources, Veterans, and Human Services Committee at 8:23. Councilors present, Council Tavares and Council Waterman. All right. From the docket of May 20, 2025, entertain a motion to approve the memorandum of agreement between the City of Attleboro and LIUNA, Public Employees Local Union Number 1144, Laborers Union, DPW.
Second.
Thank you, Council Tavares. Basically, this is just contractual and getting this taken care of, and it's a good thing for the city and the Laborers Union, DPW. Any questions, comments, concerns?
No.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-0. For the docket of May 20, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the appointment of Spencer Lins to fill an expired term on the Board of Recreation Commissions, term to expire February 2028.
Second.
Thank you, Councilor Tavares. Basically, we just had Spencer Lynn in recently for Conservation Commission. He was very impressive when he was here, and I know he'll do looking forward to him doing a really good job in the Recreation Commission. Any questions, comments, concerns? Nope, seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 3-0. Okay, for the, actually, that's all we have for Human Resources, Veterans Human Service Committee. I call for adjournment at 8:24.
Second.
All right, thank you, Council Tavares. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:24.
I'd like to call Personal Safety and Emergency Management Committee to order at 8:24. Myself, Councilor Boyd, and Councilor Angelo. I have two motions this evening. From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to appropriate $126,364.03 from undesignated fund balance, free cash general government to account fire earned time payment.
Second.
Thank you. This was for an individual that has worked for the city for more than 35 years. So it seems very, he's earned it, and that's exciting. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to transfer $11,808.41 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Police Maintenance Radios.
Second.
Thank you. So in the backup, this is to replace a copper transmission line. The original radio line was installed in 1985. And it really, unfortunately, this is a little bit of a Band-Aid because ultimately we're eventually going to have to change the whole radio system. So this is to just change a specific wire, but it is an aging radio system, and the chief does acknowledge that this, ultimately, we will have to do that. But he does recommend, and the company that came out to look at the system recommended just replacement for right now, knowing that we will have to, maybe with capital improvements, be looking at this item. So, yeah. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye. That motion passes. That's all the business this evening. I'll call for an adjournment.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 8:26.
I'd like to call the City Property and Claims Committee to order at 8:26. And from the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to transfer $3,500 from account 11241-000-578-300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1541100-524011, Council on Aging, Maintenance of Buildings.
Second.
Thank you. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Anyone have any questions or concerns? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to accept the donation of 18 brand-new disc golf baskets, 28 brand-new disc golf tee pads, and 20 used disc golf baskets to the Parks and Forestry Department from Jewelry City Disc Golf.
Second.
I think this is a really nice donation, and I have no concerns with it. Any other questions or concerns? Here.
I have no idea what this is.
You don't have any idea what
I
it
have
is?
no idea what this is. I'd like to know.
You throw a frisbee
You
and
frisbee
try
and
to
I
get it in a
try to
basket.
get it in a basket. Have you seen them at the big parks? They have a basket up there, and it's called a disc golf game.
It's a lot of fun.
It sounds
It
great.
can be fun.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's a game. Okay.
Frisbee golf. Frisbee golf.
Frisbee golf, yes, yes. Okay, any other concerns or questions? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to accept the donation of a Speed Queen FF700 BN front load washer and 2 stainless steel fill hoses to the City of Attleboro Animal Shelter from Jeannie Bushman, I hope I didn't wreck that, of 20 Haworth Avenue, South Attleboro.
Second.
Thank you. Again, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, much needed. Any other concerns, questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to declare the following obsolete school department books as surplus and available for disposition. Everyday Math, first grade teacher guide, 10 books. Everyday Math, second grade, student book reference, Student reference book, 15. Everyday math, second grade, teacher guide, 10 books. Everyday math, third grade, student reference book, 25 books. Everyday math, fourth grade, student reference book, 15. Everyday math, fourth grade, teacher guide, 10. Everyday math, older books, a fifth grade, 2006, student reference book, 110 of them. Everyday math, older, fifth grade, 2006, teacher guide, 40 of them. Everyday math, newer book, sixth grade, 2018 student reference book, 50 of them. Everyday math, older books, sixth grade, 2006 student reference books, 300. Everyday math, older books, sixth grade, 2006 teacher guide, 6 of them. Open up resources, 7th, 8th grade, 2017 workbooks, 1,000 of them. Connected mathematics projects, 7th, 8th grade, 2002 workbooks, 400 of them. McGraw-Hill Illustrative Math, Course 1 through 3 Algebra, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, 2021 workbooks, 1,200 of them. McGraw-Hill Illustrative Math, Course 1 through 3 Algebra, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades, 2021 teacher guides, 30 of them. Prentice Hall Course 3 Mathematics, Red, 8th grade, 2010 teacher guides, 4. Prentice Hall Course 3 Mathematics, Red, 8th grade, 2010 textbook, 200 of them. Prentice Hall Course 3 Mathematics, Red, 8th grade, 2010 workbooks, there's 100 of those. And McGraw-Hill Algebra 1 textbook, 8th grade, 2012, 50 of those.
Second.
Thank you. I think that's pretty explanatory. Obviously, these math books are moving on out. Any other concerns or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that motion passes. That is all the business City Property and Claims has this evening. And I would like to call for an adjournment at 8:31.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8:31.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the License Committee at 8:31 besides Councilor Waterman and Holmes. From the docket of May 6, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve new underground storage license application from Sturdy Health at 211 Park Street for a 30,000-gallon diesel fuel Class 2 combustible liquid tank located at 219 Park Street.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. I believe for the most part, most councilors were here last week for the public hearing where they did a pretty good presentation, but happy to answer any questions, comments, or concerns from anybody.
No?
Perfect. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. From the docket of March 18th, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the new Class 2 auto license from DX2 Group LLC, doing business as Wranglers Plus, at 1856 County Street for 4 customer parking spaces and 20 display spaces.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's in order. Everything checks out pretty good. Already has a lot of vehicles there ready to go, and he was pretty eager to get this done. But again, everything looks pretty good, but happy to hear any questions, comments, concerns. Perfect. Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. With that, I'd call for an adjournment at 8:33.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.
IT and Infrastructure Committee has no business this evening. I'll call for committee meeting at the appropriate time.
Yeah, I'd like to call the Finance Committee to order at 8:33. On the committee with myself, Councilor Reynolds, and Councilor Tavares. To start with, I'd like to talk briefly about the schedule for the budget discussions with the department heads. If you could pass this around. This is a tentative schedule, and so I'm sharing this now, but I just want to let everyone know that this is very much subject to change. Mason, Deb, and I are still working with the department heads to sort of nail down the times and all of that, but I wanted to share, at least for right now, what we were thinking and share the rough schedule with you. But I do want to preface that with, please wait for the final email to come from Virginia with the final schedule. So what we're thinking is the first meeting with department heads will be next Thursday night at 7 o'clock. And we'll start with some of the more straightforward department heads, the library, the council on aging, the collector, and some of those department heads. We won't have a meeting with department heads on Tuesday, obviously, because that is a full council meeting. And then the following week. What's that?
Said yes.
Yeah. The following week, we'll meet on Thursday, the 29th, and we'll do the citywide, like the finance department heads, education, zoo, parks and zoos and stuff like that. And then on June 3rd, we'll have the public hearings. And then on June 5th, on that Thursday, we'll have the final meeting with the department heads for the public safety meeting, public safety, police and fire, public works, water, wastewater, and then any makeup department heads. And then after that, on June 10th, we'll have, on Tuesday, as part of our regular committee meeting, we'll deliberate about the budget message. And then the following Tuesday is our goal to vote out the full budget. That's an incredibly condensed schedule. We received the budget about a month earlier last year. And so we're under an incredible time crunch to get this done. If you look further down, Thursday, June 26th is sort of our drop dead date to approve this. Anything after that, it gets automatically approved because it needs to be, there needs to be a budget in place by July 1st. So we've scheduled a meeting for Tuesday, June 24th, and President Delicio and I were talking. We'll also schedule another backup meeting for Thursday, the 20th, as a just in case, so that we have a few meetings scheduled to, if there's pieces that we need to vote out, moving up so that we're not pressed to vote on anything. The goal is that we shouldn't vote on anything on the 26th.
Excuse me, but if it's Tuesday the 17th and Thursday's the 19th, is that what you mean?
I have it scribbled down as the 20th, but I
It is the
didn't actually
20th,
look
but-
to see.
If I may, point of order, the 19th is actually a holiday, it's Juneteenth. So, if I may, so first of all,
Please, President Delicio.
Council Corbis, thank you. This is an incredible amount of coordination.
It is.
As you said, it's extremely condensed. I think it's important to note that, as I said to you previously, the best thing about scheduling a special meeting is we can always cancel it if it's not needed. One thing historically over the last several years we've done, and especially since you've been chair, and even vice chair, is we've built a lot of flexibility into this process. Things happen. So I think, and I would like to think that everyone's gonna take the next really month or so to focus in on doing their homework, asking the questions, come prepared to these meetings with questions. It's an incredibly important budget, as the mayor said in her message. It's a great thing that there aren't any layoffs, but that doesn't mean that we're moving the city. That doesn't mean that we're not going to have some financial troubles. I think this is the first budget in recent memory that we're not seeing an increase of ARPA funds or some of the other COVID-related funds, which makes it challenging because those were services and services that we've relied on, and now we have to find another way to fund it. So, Todd, kudos to you, to Deb, to Mason for working together on this. It's got to truly be a collaborative effort because there is so much that we have to do.
Thank you, President Delicio. And like I said, this is tentative. Please wait for the final email, but I wanted to give everyone a heads up, at least that this is what we're thinking. I expect that email to come out within a day or two, once we finalize with all the department heads. And so that's what we're thinking, and I'd like to applaud the administration for coming up with a budget also that doesn't rely on free cash to balance the budget too. I think that's pretty extraordinary as well. So, any other comments, President Delicio?
Sorry, just one quick one. I think it's really important that we thank Barry Lacasse for, coming back in, really helping out when we needed it the most. And, kudos to Deb, because still helping with the budget with everything, including getting the audit ready, and ensuring that we did well again on the audit. So true collaboration right now.
Perfect. Anything else on that before we move on? All right, moving on. From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to make the following transfers. Transfer $11,495 from account 1124100-578-300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1124100-599-000 Citywide Other Financial Uses, and further transfer $11,495 to account 1100124-499000 Citywide Other Financial Sources, and further transfer $11,495 to account 1100124-530-150 Citywide Special Event Professional Services to fund this special event.
Second.
So what is going on with this? Seriously. Or at least that was what I asked when I saw it. Bottom line is we're transferring $11,495 from the reserve fund for transfer to the Special Events Professional Services Fund to pay for the 4th of July fireworks event is what's happening there. And it's to pay for police details for that event. All the other transfers tied to that are just accounting. Sort of what happens there is we're not allowed to spend money directly from the reserve fund for transfer. So first we have to transfer it to a uses account. So we have to transfer it to a uses account and then a sources account for like a accounting. It's a balance sheet sort of thing. And then we transfer it into the special events professional services. So the 4 steps along the way is strictly just an accounting thing. But the bottom line is reserve fund for transfer to special events professional services. But the real question is why $11,495 for the fireworks event? And we're fundraising. This is what's remaining that we haven't raised enough funds for yet as of last week. We're still, the administration and this city is still working on fundraising pretty extensively. There are still a number of fundraising events that are scheduled. The plan is to spend any money that is raised first. And because this is earmarked only for this special event, it can only be spent for that. So it can only be spent for the 4th of July event. And we will spend any money that is raised through fundraising first. So based on that, I'm okay making this transfer. I think it's the right thing to do. We've already approved the contract and the PO for purchasing the fireworks. So at this point, I think we need to move forward, but I'm open to further discussions. President Delicio.
Yeah, thanks, Todd, for bringing this out. I think this is important. You know, the last couple of years, it's been a little bit of a political football, right?
It has been.
I think what we're seeing now is Christy Clausen and our own Virginia's just doing an amazing job spearheading this committee, and the committee's made up of some great volunteers. I know Councilor Lavoie's mom is doing a great job. You're seeing several members of the community keep me honest here, Nick, every Thursday night they're meeting to talk about what are we doing. Businesses are donating, other local businesses, restaurants, I think Chipotle, Uno, Tavern and Square, to name a few, have done fundraising nights. So it's a true community, and I think that this is a situation where we can actually show that we're vested in it as a city as well. So this is a great move, and I think it's one that speaks volumes about where the city is for this event.
I agree. Councilor Lavoie.
Thank you, Chair Copus. Yeah, I'd probably be grounded if I didn't support this, but no. In all fairness, I support this. I personally see what goes into this. I probably hear more about fundraising for fireworks than I do talk of the budget. It's just, obviously the people want this. From what I get on intel, this is going to be a great event. Tons of local businesses and businesses kind of right on the horizon that are going to come in, you know, food trucks, things like that. You know, Christy and the community and the committee are doing a fantastic job at really making this, you know, more of an event than just fireworks. It's a lot more into this. And I believe in the past, correct me if I'm wrong, the city typically kicked in the details, like paying for the detail, I should say. So even if no fundraising happened from today on, I don't see an issue with this because, you know, before my time, this was more of a reoccurring thing. But I have faith that the fundraising will cover it all anyway. And maybe we can keep this in there for next year, 250th anniversary of the country, and bigger and better than ever. So with that, I conclude my comments. Thank you.
And thank you for bringing up that next year is the 250th anniversary. That's an important thing. And speaking of which, we've raised, or 48,500 roughly has been raised, and so this is covering the remainder that brings it up to this estimated $60,000 cost, which is the total cost. Councilor Tavares, I see your hand.
Yeah, thank you. Two questions. So one was along the lines of what Councilor Lavoie was alluding to. So do you know if it's the case that historically the police details and some of those ancillary costs have been typically funded by the city as opposed to donation? I don't know if you know that off the top of your head.
I believe at one point they were, and then they stopped being, and I don't remember when that cutoff was exactly. President Delicio, do you remember?
So I think what we saw, and I think again, COVID, and again, this is my memory, a little hazy on this. Leading up to COVID, we always had a carryover. So we always had enough in the account to cover everything, and it was usually generally $65,000, which would pay for the previous year. Fundraising has changed a lot. There were certain companies that, for whatever reason, are no longer able to donate, and you know, some of them would donate 10, 20,000. So, in absence of that, we're almost starting from ground zero again. So I think what they're looking to do is continue to build up. So for that big extravaganza next year for the 250th, we're starting to plan for that now. This just helps us, and in years past, the city has kicked in money just to get us to that hump.
And if I may, with a follow-up?
Yes, please.
So assuming we did approve this, any fundraising efforts that happen between now and the actual event, would those go towards reimbursing this reserve account, or would this just build up the special events account moving forward?
Those funds, and I had that same conversation with Deb yesterday. And those would be spent first before drawing down on this account. Any other questions? All right. Hearing no other questions, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. All right. From the docket of May 20th, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the following transfers for the 53rd week in fiscal year 25. $36,098 from account 11241000578-360 citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week to account 1210100-511-000 police salary and wages full-time. $166 from account 1124100-578-360 citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week to account 1210100-5111000 police salary and wages part-time. $1,603 from account 1124100-578-360 citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week to account 1210100-5130021 police dispatcher overtime. $2,458 from account 1124100-578-360 citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week to account 1210100-5141010 police college credits. $1,441 from account 1124100-578-360 citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week to account 1210100-5142020 police night differential. $80 from account 1124100-578-360 citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week to account 1210001-5142025 police pop differential. $79 from account. I'll just say these are all coming from account 1124100-578-360 citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week. So all of these are coming from this same reserve for compensation 53rd week. So this one,
Mr. Cobus, just to even make it a little easier, where we all have copies of these and we have opinions, you can just read the dollar amount to the accounts it's going to.
okay, $79 to police salaries detectives, $17 to police salaries prosecutor. Thank you, President Lucio.
Merry Christmas.
Thank you.
Would be here until the fireworks.
$504 to account police line of duty, $6 to police SOR stipend, $8 to police school resource off stipend, $8 to police service division stipend, $8 to police detail officer stipend, $8 to police firearm licensing officer stipend, $54,081 to fire salary and wages full-time, $20,000 to fire overtime, $1,183 to fire college credits, $3,221 to fire night differential, $1,011 to fire certification differential, $93 to fire salaries stipends, $8,000 to assessor salary and wages full-time, $1,500 to treasurer salary and wages full-time, $10,000 to human resources salary and wages full-time, a $19,500 to council on aging salary and wages full-time, and $15,000 to wastewater salary and wages full-time.
Second.
Motion is in order. We do this every year. This is for the 53rd week. It's something that comes up every year. Any other questions?
I have none.
All those in favor? Aye. Aye, motion passes. And thank you, President Delicio. And finally, I'm going to read this one and then, but I'm going to ask that we don't vote it out. Let's see, where is it? From the docket of April 1st, 2025, I entertain a motion to approve the city's capital improvement program fiscal year 26 to 2030. Motion is in order. And I would just like to ask everyone for their list of items for the capital improvement program real quick. And I will also pass around, this was the capital improvement message from last year. We'll discuss this in 2 weeks. I'm just passing this around for people to have as a reference for what we wrote last year. And we'll come up with something in 2 weeks for what our capital improvement message is. It'll probably be similar to this. But like, if you want to use this as a reference for ideas or thoughts for the capital improvement message. But with that said, I'd like to ask for your thoughts for what you'd like to see on the capital improvement plan or message. President Delicio.
Thank you. So, in terms of specific projects, I think that's caught before the horse. My concern is we need to focus on planning, and when you're crafting the message, I'd really like to have that focus on planning. I think the 500,000 capital account every year is a good start. But if you look at some of the other communities around Massachusetts right now, locally, I know on the North Shore, Stoneham is facing quite the budget conundrum right now. They have a new school, but they need a new public safety building. They're talking about a 2.5 override. We talked about in the mayor's budget message, the joint public safety building, the council on aging, the water treatment, the wastewater treatment planning, plants. We have to plan. We have to have a plan to get there. I think that's really where we need to focus, because right now all we're doing is popping Band-Aid fixes on things. And I'm not blaming this administration or previous administrations by any stretch, but I think that we're charged as the legislative body in really coming up with a plan, working together collaboratively to come up with a plan to be able to move this city forward. We still have the debt exclusion that we're paying, great project. I think most of us around here supported it. But we have some other major capital improvements that we're gonna need to focus in on if we're gonna truly move Attleboro forward. As the community continues to grow, as the needs of the public continue to grow, we need to look at, quality of life sort of things. And I think, Todd, if my ask and my opinion would be to really focus on a planning mechanism. And, as I like to say, if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. And right now, I think we have an opportunity to come up with a plan that will prevent failure and potentially catastrophic failure in years to come.
I couldn't agree more. And in looking at the capital improvement plan, like that was my biggest takeaway. I think focusing on Band-Aids, like you said, isn't the right approach, and needing sort of a comprehensive plan is really important.
And if I may, just to that point, Todd, I think there's a balance, because there are some Band-Aid fixes that we need. There are some everyday costs of doing business projects in there, but I think it's gotta be a balance. But we've gotta plan for the big projects so we can limit the impact it's gonna have on the taxpayer and the resident.
And I believe last year, the next to last paragraph was in the capital improvement plan was sort of stated that where we talked about, like, hey, we have these big projects on the horizon and we need to figure out how to do that and come up with a comprehensive plan. So I think if we can reemphasize that and maybe move that to the forefront.
Thank you.
Counselor LeBoy.
Thank you. I somewhat, I fully echo those comments, but, I piggyback off that would be, and I mentioned it to you, is I think we need to also really push out the fact that we have to understand or figure out what we're doing with some of the buildings. Like, we have items on the capital improvement list for the senior center, like repairs, pretty large repairs, but then there's also talks of a new senior center. So I think, the administration has to figure out which path we're gonna take, because putting millions of dollars into an existing building only to then move out of that building and spend millions of dollars to build a new building seems counterproductive if we don't know the future of that building post senior center being there should a new one be built. So that's really what I want to emphasize. Same thing with police and fire stations. I think we just need to understand, are we going to build new ones or are we going to fix them, because they're only getting worse and more beaten down, and I don't think it's fair to police officers, firefighters to to not get upgrades if we're kicking a can down the road. If we're gonna keep the buildings we have, let's figure out what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it, rather than talking about if we build a new thing or if we do that. So that's really what I want to emphasize, I think.
Thank you. And one of the things that I think is important for us to do as part of this capital improvements message is to at this point in time, to send a message to the administration that for this list of projects that we agree on and we vote on and say, this list is a list of projects that if you send them down to us, at least back in May, we were relatively supportive of them. It doesn't mean that they're guaranteed to pass, but if you send them down to us, we're probably going to support them if you send them to us. And that is an important message for us to send to the administration. And I do think it is valuable for us to go through this process and talk through sort of what projects in here we do support. President Delicio, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I think through the chair to Council Lavoy, you bring up a good point. You can only renovate a building so many times. There are only so many renovations that can go on. At the turn of this century, I believe that the council voted, it might have been 2000, 2001 timeframe, $3.2 million to renovate the Lawson Center now. I think if we look at the fire headquarters, the police headquarters, which was turned into a police headquarters, I think it was built in 1922, is in Elks. You know, you look at, so we have aging infrastructure, and that's gonna present its own challenges as we try to, you can only renovate so many times, you know, and then it just becomes, like laminate on a kitchen floor, you know? But I think to Todd, to your point, if I may, it's important that priorities change throughout the year based on circumstances as they occur. I always kind of used to use the analogy that the CIP was like the old service merchandise catalog. You're getting ready for Santa Claus to come and you're looking at it, you're like, all right, I want Castle Grayskull, I want Snake Mountain, I want, that's really what this is kind of, it's what do you, in your own opinion, as a councilor, think that we need to focus in on to continue to move the city forward? So I think the exercise you're doing this way, Todd, is extremely, extremely important.
Mm-hmm. With that saying, that's not to say that our priorities might change 6 months from now.
Right.
And they very often do. Councilor Tavares.
Thank you. So as part of crafting, I think, the message to the administration, I think one important thing is, to Councilor Lavoie's point as well, is regardless of whether we're going to decide that we need to repair, renovate, put in substantial capital expenditures into existing buildings versus completely developing new facilities, I think regardless, we have to come up with some sort of sustainable maintenance program, right? I mean, that's been the downfall of the city for so many years, right? We look at a building like the old high school. I mean, I've heard all sorts of conversations about that over the years that, there was no maintenance program, and it came to the point where, all right, well, we're going to, we're going to renovate this, and then it was, no, we need a new building, and then just nobody knew which direction this was going in. And I think the fire chief actually made a very similar point regarding buildings as it relates to the fire department, that, in some cases, it's sort of hard to tell what the path forward is for some of those buildings, because there's no clear direction on, all right, well, are we looking at completely overhauling and, building a new facility, or are we going to address, some of the issues where it would be worth, repairing or renovating. So same point that Councilor Lavoie makes as it relates to the Council on Aging, right? Those are administrative decisions, but I think as part of an emphasis for part of what I think we would want to emphasize as the council is, regardless of which direction it is, right? And you could probably make arguments in both directions, and it's going to be different for different departments, age of buildings, all sorts of different factors. But regardless, I think the maintenance needs to be there, because you get the longevity out of the buildings. There's also the aesthetics, right, of just being able to do business in a city where, the buildings are maintained. And, that means some buildings may be older, and that's okay, as long as we know that we have a system and a process to keep those maintained, to keep them safe, so that we can get all of the life that we can out of them. So I think that's a really important point that we should stress to the administration, in my opinion.
Very good. Councilor Ford?
It does seem to me that some things, like the Council on Aging, we are anticipating that if you think of a capital project as something that should last for at least, say, 5 years, then what we're anticipating is that within that time frame, we'll have a new facility. We voted for that. We're waiting to hear back from the administration on the proposals that have come in. But at this point, to have a capital improvement for a Council on Aging seems to me a mistake. We need to make repairs as we go along, make sure the roof isn't leaking. I think we just did that. But I think wastewater, that's a capital expense that is inevitable, huge, and that we absolutely have to plan for, we have to address. We need everybody's effort to row in that direction, and to the detriment of some other facilities, but that one is just huge and coming down the road like a fire. I mean, I just don't know what to make of what the mayor said. We're going to continue to apply to the federal government to see if we can't get land for a joint public safety facility. That just leaves me, where are we with that? I mean, I think that improving some of the fire department buildings seems absolutely imperative, that we can't really live for 5 more years with some of those buildings as they currently are. But I have no understanding of where we are with developing a joint public safety facility in that area off Lamb Road or wherever it is. So that's a puzzle to me. I think the fire department is on its last legs in many of its facilities, and I would like to see that as a priority for our council. That and wastewater treatment seem to me absolutely urgent matters. And then for the rest, I don't know. We need to make a decision and recommendation to the administration. This is what we want. We want a new building for the Council on Aging. We want a new fire or public safety facility. But we don't. We're willing, given the huge expenses that are down the road, we're willing to put capital expenditure into the fire department facility on Union Street and perhaps forego improving the police department facility for a while, something like that.
Okay. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, Councilor Cobus. I mean, there's a million things we all want, we all need.
I'm looking for specific things.
Yeah, and the city can only spend so much money. I mean, I'm certainly looking at a facilities manager, at some point to handle all these items. Not really on the list just yet is we probably need a vehicle for the Veterans Department, and I'll be speaking to Ben Quell more on that in a meeting that I have with him next week. And definitely the top of my list has always been Council on Aging, as Councilor Farr had mentioned too as well. But again,
so for the Council on Aging, there's the new senior center, but then there's the new senior center facilities, construction. There's the rooftop HVAC units at the. So the main thing, the urgent issue is the HVAC there for $300,000, or replace the rubber roof, which is a P1 item.
Which is a what item?
Priority 1.
Well, I guess we need a decision made on when a new Council on Aging is going to be available before we spend a lot of money on improving.
Right, and that's why, in my opinion, didn't bubble up to something that I thought it wasn't something that I was going to nominate to add. Councilor Dolan?
So in my opinion, as far as the council on aging, fire stations and police, I think we do nothing until we have results from, what's come out, if we've had any bids on the place at Highland. And as the mayor stated, she's working on trying to get that army base, right? So, I mean, obviously, we can't let them live in squalor. I mean, if there are small things that need to be repaired, obviously, we need to do that. And as far as investing money in the fire and police stations, there's just no room. Even if we were to invest, there's just no room to have, the females' quarters separate and so on and so forth. So, that's a problem there. But anyway, my top two, besides the obvious fire station and police, which really bummed me out during my trips there, was the ADA recommendations, which is marked urgent on recreation, and the Balfour River Walk, which is also the handicap ramp at Balfour, which is also marked urgent.
I definitely had that one myself.
So those will be the two that I submit.
Okay. Yep, I definitely had the Balfour River Walk as well. Councilor LeVoy?
Thank you.
If I may, before I jump into that, Councilor, or Vice President Dolan, I think the way I'd like to go about police, fire, and the Council on Aging and align that with what President Delicio was saying is to craft the message to say, hey, we want to solve this long-term plan. Police, fire, Council on Aging is incredibly important to us. Please focus on maintenance and capital improvement projects that maintain the existing buildings. This is important to the council, but what's really important to us is solving sort of this long-term and coming up with a long-term plan. So instead of coming up with individual projects for those buildings, maybe come up with like a paragraph that talks about that. Does that work for everybody?
Were you talking to me?
I was, because you were just.
Yes, and I agree with that, and I think the point is almost moot, right? So we can tell her what's important to us, but we have to wait.
Yes.
It's like a wait and see type thing, and I think obviously the administration, if the roof started leaking and if something was really bad that was going on, she's gonna send it down for an allocation of money to repair whatever. So I think she knows what we're thinking, and I think we can certainly put it in writing with our message of how we feel.
In this way, we're not saying that we don't support police, fire, Council on Aging and all that, and I think that's important that we're not.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
I mean, you read this book and it just depresses you because you want to give something to everybody. I mean, and again, it's not necessarily our decision, but yes, it's difficult to read this book even after all the ARPA money that we had that we worked wonders with.
Right.
And thankfully, we had that money because we did a lot with that money. But anyway.
But perfect. Actually, Councilor LeVoy and then President Delicio.
Thank you. I just wanted to I made a list before and didn't bring it, but I wanted to give you a few anyway. I agree with the Armory, Bartek Center, getting that ADA compliant. I think it's been also helping service the COA, so I think it's very important to get that up to specs. I agree on the Balfour Bridge as well. And one I thought was important in a couple different ways was a new Parks and Forestry building, more so to allow for a bit of the zoo expansion as well, if that's where we deem fitting for the zoo to grow. Obviously understanding again that the COA and the public safety complex are a bit out of reach at this point in time. And then one other quick thing too is I'd love to see if we could get a proposal on a new public safety complex with a set budget in mind. I don't know what that figure is, but we didn't do that when we had sent it out before. I mean, it was $141 million with the Taj Mahal, everything we can give you, we'll give you. I think if we come up with feasibly $98 million, what could we get? That might be something to look at too. But I think when we send out these requests, we don't have any kind of cap in mind, and then why wouldn't an engineering firm give you everything you could want and then some at $140 million?
And that's all I have.
Thank you. And with that said, I recognize that maybe not everybody brought their list with them or has the capital improvement book in front of them. If you do have, if you think of something later on tonight or tomorrow, feel free to send things through Virginia and she can forward them to me and I'll include them in the draft message that I'll have in 2 weeks for us to review. President Delicio.
Thanks. So just kind of building off a lot of what everyone had to say, I think when we, and again, I'm kind of hung up on the public safety complex, as you know better than most, Todd. This has been a passion project of mine for years. I think we have an opportunity to support the administration as they lobby the federal delegation. There are funds out there. There's got to be funds out there. We know there are. We can come and we can allocate, because let's just say that we take the old Army Reserve base on John Williams, a property that I know a decade and a half ago, maybe even longer, the ARA had interest in, and we were working on a land swap with them for the IBP, which is now my house. But still, you know, there's a lot of remediation that's going to have to go into that too. It's not just the base, the EPA, DEP. There's going to have to be a lot of work that goes into it. No one's ever going to say no to a question you don't ask. So if the administration is engaged in conversations with, whether it's our congressmen, whether it's our senators, this is an opportunity for us to support and for us to make a case to say, here's what we need, here's why, here's our concern. So maybe this might be a little out there, but perhaps we send a, not just a capital improvements message to the mayor and the administration, but maybe we send it to the delegation, both state and federal.
That's an interesting idea.
Not bad idea.
Literally just thought of it. No, I'm just kidding.
I'll work on drafting something. I don't know if it'll be one message or two different messages, one for both, but I'll figure something out and come up with that. I like that idea, President Delicio. Perfect. Councilor Waterman and then Councilor Sawyer.
Well, this is no surprise. We've been working towards a council on aging for a long time. And that, I think, should still be our highest priority, and right behind it, the fire and police, and a joint facility. And I attended a meeting, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, and at the Council on Aging, and this subject was brought up with Congressman Auchincloss. I think he's pretty clearly aware that we would like to look at that place where the reserve was. And I would suggest both U.S. senators. So that would be the 3 I would suggest.
Perfect. Councilor Sawyer?
I definitely echo all this about the joint station and definitely the senior center. The Balfour Riverwalk pedestrian bridge is another one of my priority, I would say. The ADA recommendations is definitely another that I would.
The what?
The ADA recommendations
Okay,
in the recreation department. Yeah. I also think that I know that we're working on things with the zoo, but I think that we should look at the new entrance building where we saw that the roof had tarps on it because it was leaking so badly. So I definitely think that's something that we should look into. And also, as far as leaking roofs, I know that there are a couple of schools in the book that said Thatcher and Coelho had leaking roofs, and I think we should also look at those.
Outstanding.
Another one thing
I appreciate you got two of the Capron, the main building at Capron Park, where if you remember that wall was that was definitely one on my list. In the roof project in the for Coelho was definitely on my list. Any other ones?
I just had one other thing that I wanted to mention, and just to echo Councilor Tavares with the maintenance program, I think is a big deal for all buildings in the city, so we can always look at what's needed and pay attention to the most urgent there.
Facilities manager and maintenance program. I'll see if I can come up with a paragraph on that. Okay.
Isn't that Bill McDonough's, what's
It
Bill
is.
McDonough's
Yes.
new? Okay.
That's a joint, which is getting to be a bit much.
Oh, well, I wasn't aware that he felt it was a bit much, because I
I'm
remember
just
it
saying.
wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I'm not speaking for Bill at all. I'm just saying it's a bit much.
I just wanted to clarify too, in my, the recreation, as far as the ADA compliance, that's throughout the city, that's not just Bartown.
Oh, not just Bartown,
Yeah,
okay.
so I just, and I've been advocating for this to be put on a list for several years, and so now, it's $750,000 when it was 5-something last time.
Okay.
So it keeps going up, so I still advocate for that. Thank you.
And then any others? It's gotta be something in South Attleboro.
There's always something in South Attleboro, but I'll send it to you.
Okay, thank you. And the last one that wasn't brought up that I'd like to make sure is included is the downtown flood mitigation is important that I think we include. Flood mitigation. All right, so I will get that written up. Any other comments on the capital improvement plan? Yes, Councilor Forward.
I am not persuaded that we should only be looking at a joint public safety building. That, it seems to me that the police department can be anywhere. The fire department, not so. That the Union Street Fire Facility needs improvements now. And I wouldn't want to see anything postponed for that, because we are urging a joint facility be constructed in some future time. I'm not personally persuaded they have to be together.
Okay.
I one other comment, having to do with Councilor Fowa's comment, is that as far as fire departments go, I think it's based on what the chief had mentioned when he came and said that, I don't want to have longer times for them to get to the fires in the city, that different stations throughout is a big deal and is still important. And so then making improvements to those ones that are in, ancillary buildings should be done so that they can be used.
Agreed. And that response time study is critical. President Delicio.
Again, when you're looking at these buildings, you can only repair them so much. If you've truly toured the Union Street facility top to bottom, which I have several times, this thing was built in the 1800s, where the front doors allowed for the fire engines that were horse-drawn. We're growing. The needs, I think Vice President Dolan mentioned, the needs that are growing. The departments are changing. As far as the response time, John Williams, if you look at a map of Attleboro, it's pretty close to being dead center in the city, which is also where you have your fueling stations with the DPW. I think that location is there. My concern is if we don't continue this conversation of planning and maintenance, great point, Council Tavares, is we could be putting ourselves in a more vulnerable situation because we can't, in order to give the chief what he needs downtown on Union Street, we'd have to knock down the Bartek Center and expand that way. So it seems common sense to say, yes, we need to repair what we have, but we have. And you can only do that so much before the foundation and the structure itself is compromised. So there's a lot of concerns. I think the maintenance of where we are today has to be addressed. I agree with that. But we have to focus on where we're going, where we want to go. We have to really come up with a plan. I can't stress that enough because the city's growing. We're having more and more people, which means we need larger stations. We need more cops. We need more firefighters. We need more EMTs. We need better water delivery systems. Like, these are the things that are going to assist us and aid us in growing as a community, or it's going to hinder us if it's not done the right way.
Outstanding. Great conversation. I appreciate the discussion. With that said, if somebody could, Councilor Tavares, if you could rescind your second, I believe you were, or no, Counselor Reynolds,
Yes.
excuse me. Sorry about that.
I will resend my second.
All right, and then that concludes the business for the Finance Committee. I move to adjourn at 9:24.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. We are adjourned at 9:24.
The special committee on tax abatement is canceled this evening.
Special Committee on Rules and Procedures is canceled for this evening.
Committee on Compensation Classification has no new business and call for meeting at the next appropriate time.
To George.
Yeah.
Well, I thank you all, and I appreciate you all.
We made
I'm
sure,
gonna miss coming here every Tuesday night.
I don't believe it.
We're gonna miss you.
we made sure we kept you extra long tonight.
Yeah.